I did it again. This is not the first time this has happened. Not the first time. So welcome to the show. Let's start this all over, gang. Let's just pretend like this didn't happen, okay? Let's start over. Welcome to the WDWpov live stream show. I'm your host, Jeff. Marcus has not come in yet. He likes to be, a little late. He just likes to do that, just so he can make a grander appearance into the show. But the mic is on now. Thank you very much, Pat. That's always a plus. Pat, you wait a second. You are at Disney World. You are at Disney World, and you're taking time out to watch our show tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you. Taking a nap. You're taking a nap. But yeah, it's raining in Disney World right now, according to Pat. But I don't know. I think I'd still rather be at Disney World in the rain than in Northeast Ohio in 30-degree weather. So
sorry, I grabbed the mail and I was just sorting it out.
He's sorting the mail, gang. He was sorting the mail.
I got something, so obviously it was important to me.
Welcome. Glad you can make the show.
Yep. Let me just scooch in here.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So
I'm adding something to my compendium of stuff.
Talk a little louder so people can hear you.
Who cares?
Who cares? You don't want them to hear you, huh? So again, thank you, Pat, for giving us the little weather update down at Disney World. They're going to be there down at Disney World until I believe you guys are going to be there on Christmas Day and then heading back home. So embracing the repeat. Nice to see you out there. Yeah, you're at Disney World too. I know. Go ahead and rub it in. Just what's he doing here? The grandkid. Oh, okay. You wore out the grandkids. Steve is here. Nice to see you, Steve. Marcus, just stop getting excited about receiving mail when you get in the bills. Yes, he's still at the exciting mail stage right now. But
yeah, look at that. Everything that get mailed to me is adding worth to my assets.
his vast assets. Yes. What do you got there? You're looking at
my game collection. Yeah.
His game collection. Okay. He's
which honestly, I've made a profit technically.
How's that?
Oh, the site I'm using to track what I have can keep track of how much you've paid for stuff if you know the exact price, and it'll determine the value and the cost and the profit.
Got it.
Of the current value.
T9 is in bed. How are you feeling, T9? I know you guys have been dealing with the Rona. So hope you guys.
You're not on a time schedule tonight.
Yes, Steve. We are not technically on a time schedule tonight. Although our guest who's going to be on after being with us for about 5 minutes may say he's had enough and he'll be out of here. We'll see.
I don't know. The green room is scaring me a little bit.
The green room. We do have our guest in the green room in the waiting room. He's eating our WDWpov snack and coach. What is that? Coterie. He's got the
charcuterie.
Thank you.
Coterie.
The charcuterie. He's got it. We sent him a charcuterie plate. No, just kidding. But anyway, we have a special guest on tonight. He will be bringing him on in just a few minutes. First, real quick though, how many of you saw the news about the trams are starting to run again at Disney World at the Magic Kingdom? I'm happy. I'm excited about the fact that they've got the trams running back at Disney World again at the Magic Kingdom. But I'm torn, to be honest with you, because, yeah, I'm excited. But when the fact that they brought back the trams, which is something that had been there forever, the fact they brought the trams back was a big news item for Disney World. It makes you think a little bit. But glad to see that happen, though. What else do we have going on here? Little bit of news, too, about Bob Paycheck, Chapek, Cheapskate, whichever nickname you want to give. Now, I know it's just a rumor. But it was, the rumors are getting stronger and stronger about possibly Bob Iger coming back in and swooping in to take over to
usurp the role as CEO, president.
To usurp it? Uh-huh. Slurp it? Okay. So anyway, those are just a couple of news items. What's Steve saying there, Jeff? He's eating. Couldn't send it. Yeah. No, he's doing okay though. So anyway, without further ado, you want to bring our guest on?
Sure.
Are you ready to bring our guest on?
Sure. Let's get it out of the way.
We have a special guest on tonight. This guy, I mean, he's done just about, I mean, he's done everything. I mean, I don't know what this guy hasn't done. He's all over the place with all kinds of talent, artistry, just coming out everywhere. I mean, this guy's just beaming with talent. So,
okay, now that we've
what's that?
Groped his ego enough, let's get him on here.
We groped his ego enough. Okay. So welcome to the show tonight, our special guest. You ready? Joel Christopher Payne.
Wait, I thought it was Joe McHale.
Joel
McRae.
Yeah.
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel. Whatever kind of Joel. Joels are all cool, aren't they?
I think so. There are very few of us, thank God. No.
Welcome to the show.
He's got a coonskin hat.
He's looking a little festive right now. You know, with the
no,
it isn't. It is a coonskin hat.
Oh, it is.
It is a coonskin.
But it's not a coonskin. No, I actually designed my own uniform for hashtag Bless the Movie, where I'm playing Santa, a movie coming out next year, starring opposite of a Disney princess who is in the Secret Society of the Second Born Royals. So if anybody's paying attention, they will see me acting opposite of a Disney star. So
really,
yeah,
really.
I just got to ask: is the beard real?
Yeah, you could pull it. It's attached.
And you're not.
Yeah,
not a makeup type of gray. That's real.
No, that's the actual color of my. Let me tell you, if there's ever a Santa, it's me. You know, when I was a kid, I would. I'm not joking. I would dress up. I had this 50s bomber jacket type thing. You know, one of the 50s jackets. You know, red silk. And I was 8 years old, and my grandmother. My grandfather had passed away before I died. Before I was sorry, not before I died. Before I was born, when my father was 8, my grandfather passed away. But he used to make toys for the kids in his garage, and so I would go into my grandmother's garage. She had all these wood blocks and wheels that were wooden, and I asked her if I could do something with it. They were very sentimental to her. And she said initially no, until she'd seen me take the red jacket, fill my stomach with a pillow, and came in with cotton balls attached to my face, saying that I wanted to make Christmas presents. And so she let me have at it. And I made quite a few things, sleds and toy cars and stuff like that, painted them. And then I went out to my grandmother's corner of her acre-long property in La Puente and proceeded to hand them out to the students going by, coming out of high school, and they thought it was very cute, little boy handing out these toys. The only problem is it was the dead of summer. Yeah, so I guess it was inevitable that I would become the big fat man, even though I'm skinny. But funny thing about that, you know, it wasn't until Coca-Cola got a hold of Santa's image that he became obese, and before that. Yeah, before that he was a skinny fella like me, and but you know, that's what their product does to children, so it makes sense, you know. But yeah, wait, I got
that makes no sense. Why would they advertise it with a big fat man? That makes it seem less enticing almost.
Well, back in the 50s, they didn't really do a lot of product research to know what the products were doing to kids. I mean, let's be honest, it started off with cocaine in their product. So, you know, they had to wait for the audience to make course corrections here. So when they asked me to be this part in this movie, I thought it was a little suspicious, being young and thin. But so when I was on the set, I wrote a backstory to this character, and it turns out that I'm now partnered with the Mandalorian stunt team, better known as the Panda Turbo Panda Productions, and we're now trying to pitch to various big studios, which we're in talks with right now, doing a Santa origin story called The Elf King, which I wrote and want to star in. And we have some really extraordinary, almost, dare I say, magical technology that is history making that Walt Disney himself would fall in love with. What happened? Would we get disconnected there?
I was going to bring this up here for you. There you go. That's what I was trying to pull up. So this is the hashtag bless the movie which you're in. And you said that's
that comes out next Christmas. Next Christmas, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then, we're not sure what station yet, what channel. What Lifetime.
Probably not the Hallmark channel.
No, it's not a Hallmark. It's a little darker. It's a little more like a modern day version of It's a Wonderful Life. So there's topics of suicide and parents that aren't living, and so there's a lot in it that might be too heavy for a Hallmark formula. But
I know I've
maybe
seen
Lifetime.
There's the trailer of it online, and there is on the website.
It deviates a little too much from the Hallmark formula. Businesswoman goes to small town, meets rough guy.
Yeah. Goes back to her hometown, finds the love that she left. The love of her life. So she decides to stay.
Not that one. Okay, yeah, she decides to stay. It's so Christmassy.
So it's not that
predictable.
Not that predictable.
Not predictable at all. And a really cool thing came out of it that I didn't think to add to the other things that I could do. A song. I got to co-write a song with two Donnas, actually. Donna Bukavage and Donna DeSopo, who helped me write a song that actually got nominated for an HMMA award, which is the equivalent of the Grammys for the movie business and television business. And I didn't win, but I was up against a Mariah Carey type. So, but we did get nominated for Santa Lives in You, and I'm really proud of it. I mean, Santa Lives in You is a song. I actually got to come up with the concept of what I wanted the song to say, and the song is really talking about the real meaning of Christmas, which is what the origin story is about. It's not about the commercialism that it's kind of become. It gets back to the selflessness, and that you're not too young to be celebrating the message of selflessness year round, and that it's not just a one-time event. So I'm really proud of the song, and it was my first professional singing opportunity. That's actually how I got the role. I was singing Music of the Night on Facebook, practicing it for my fiance at the time, that is now my wife, for my wedding. I was going to sing it to her, and the producer said, "Hey, that guy looks a lot like Santa, and we don't have to dub him." And so I decided, why not? I figured if the movie was bad, at least I would have fun doing it, and maybe I would be good in it. And but it turns out that the movie's really fun, and it's got a good message for young girls. It's about keeping up with the Joneses, and a girl that can't do that, and she's trying to figure out where to find her way in a world that is mostly about likes and social credit, and so I think it's a really kind of timely movie, and we shot it during the height of COVID during Arizona, and we did it safely, and nobody got sick on set, and it was probably the only Christmas movie shot last year, which is we're really proud of that. So, and it led to this amazing opportunity with the Mandalorian guys, and we're really hopeful that it'll turn into something. But the toys, which Walt Disney would be very proud of, I've actually shown this technology to none other than Bob Gurr, the guy that invented the Doom Buggy, better known as the Omnimover, and he was the guy that designed the world's first steel roller coaster, better known as the Matterhorn, People Mover, anything that moved at Disneyland, basically, the monorail. And when I showed, what was that?
That duck over there, yeah.
The duck?
Yeah, those ducks.
Well, the spy ducks, we don't talk about that. But so I showed him this technology. It's this little chip that a partner of mine, a business partner, invented, called Marionetics, and it's about the size of a pack of gum, and it's a very sophisticated device that will change entertainment as we know it when it comes to toys. And it's this little small device, can be popped into the belly of a plush. You just need to make a pocket and pop it in, and then a flap comes over and the button pops through the flap, and you've got a talking toy. And not only that, we can have millions of toys talking to each other and singing together like the Tiki Room at Disneyland, with a new show every hour indefinitely. And
so they're gonna synchronize with each other, and
they are
communicate with
synchronized.
each other. Nice.
We can have millions of toys singing "It's a Small World" globally. Millions.
Wait, think about that. Think about that long and hard before you actually pull the trigger on that one.
Well, we wouldn't, you know, honestly, I've gotten stuck on it. It's a small world.
It's a small world all at once.
Yeah, I love the Sherman Brothers, but my God, you don't want to get stuck on that ride. But to make,
at least it wasn't the original version that they had,
What's that?
where it was
Right.
just the country's national anthem or something like that.
Okay.
oh, I didn't know that. But to make matters even more interesting with this technology is we can, once the origin story of Santa is told, when we get if the show takes off and is a success in season 1, then season 2 we would have him go into the elf world and get trained. It's kind of an, you know, just like Spider-Man learns about his abilities, and we would launch the toys in the second season, where the toys would interact with Santa in real time. So you'd be at home with your toy, with your elf, and the elf would be communicating with Santa in real time. There may be a few people that think I'm the real Santa because, well, I am. So we'll see how that goes. The technology works right now, and it's been 10 years in development, and we're just waiting for the right.
That's the Elf King thing, or this is
that's the Elf King show. Yeah.
Okay.
And I wanted to create a show that would basically explain why and how Santa does everything. Like, why does he need cookies at every house? What's that about? Where all these cookies go? Why does he need reindeer? Why didn't he use like polar bears instead, a more formidable animal? Why does he go through chimneys? So there's reasons behind all of that. Oh, it looks like you've got a little helper there that is
peeking
in.
This is Jack, my youngest. Except you can't see his face right there. There you go. You want to say hi to Joel real quick?
Hi, Joel.
Hey, how's it going? You can call me Nick.
You can call him Nick if you want. Yeah.
Hi, Nick.
This is probably the most casual podcast ever.
It probably is.
That's not for eating. What?
Jack. Yeah, he's a blessing to our family. He's a good kid. He's a good kid.
That's
awesome.
Not for eating.
Okay. Well, we're trying to interview Joel. Is that okay? Or Nick? Is that okay?
What movie is that?
It is called #Blessed the movie.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. See you when we're done later. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. High five. There you
Wonderful.
Go. Yeah, he's. You gonna have fun down there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, our audience knows Jack. He, he's on the spectrum. He loves Disney. He loves all things Disney. Whenever we go down to Disney World, he's always had breakthroughs. You know, like he was nonverbal when he was like 4 or 5 years old. Took him to Disney, and he started talking more. There have been all these miraculous things that have happened just, you know, through Disney with him. So, yeah. Anyway.
Wonderful. Well, I created the Friendly Project, which is a children's network on the app stores right now. It got Google's Choice Award, and I'm teaching family values and life lessons using evidence-based research. And there are quite a few videos on there that are for children that are on the spectrum, teaching them about cleanliness and basic, you know, washing your hands and stuff like that, things that were designed for people on the spectrum. And we've had great success with it, with people downloading it and adopting it. Again, we got 5-star reviews on there, so I'm really proud of it. I voiced a lot of most of the characters, in fact, all of the characters. I animated them. So very much like Walt Disney started his animation career. I'm literally reliving his life, which is kind of a weird. I've got audio animatronics and well,
yeah. You're Walt Jr. or
you can call me Wonka Disney.
Wonka Disney.
Well, speaking of which, let's take the Santa hat off, and I'll put on my Walt hat, which I think is more appropriate.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
But I've had a long career with Disney.
Just no cigarettes during the show.
No, I'm not a smoker. Not a smoker.
Good old Walt.
And
he puffed a few too many, I think. But oh well.
And cut the filters off of them.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I always wonder what the world would have been like if he had just lived a little longer to finish Epcot. I think he was really on to that. Truly, he could have, if anybody on the planet, he was like an Elon Musk that was bucking the system. Everybody told him he couldn't do it, and he just did it anyway, and he did it very well. So I question like what the world would have been like if he had just lived just a little longer to complete the Epcot city. Because he was way ahead of everybody with electric cars, electric vehicles, way ahead of politicians on that concept. And if you've ever been to Walt's apartment, you'll see that he had innovations in his apartment at Disneyland that it was way ahead of everybody. So, I'm a futurist. I like thinking about different things. I've come up with things that have ultimately come true that I came up with when I was a little kid. The drone car is something that I was making when I was around 8 or 9 years old out of toothpicks. I designed something that looks very much like your modern day drone, but I had a cockpit in it, and I thought that at some point we would have engines powerful enough to lift at least one person, and now we've been able to do it with two. And I've seen this car in China. It's pretty incredible. You can fly around for about 20 minutes on a single charge, but I'm friends with a guy that has a helicopter that doesn't need to be recharged. It's been built. He's going to redefine transportation and energy and power as we know it. And we're not talking about a perpetual engine, but he's been able to get way more battery life out of, I mean, like 1,000% more out of batteries, and has an actual physical luxury helicopter that can go from like Florida to Europe and then back and forth a couple times without having to have any issues, which is kind of extraordinary.
How did you get how did you get connected with all these people? I mean, you talk about Bob Gurr. I know you mentioned the Mandalorian. You're doing some work with them. How did you get so connected?
Well, 28 years in the video game industry, I collected a lot of people from different industries. I mean, I worked in the location-based entertainment with Virtual Jungle Cruise, which is the longest running virtual attraction in history, actually. Very proud of that. So I got to build the track for that and half of the worlds that you ran around in. So if anybody out there is a fan of Disney Quest, I was a part of that. And then, I got to work with, in the TV business for a while on Max Steel and Starship Troopers, and in the movie business with Titanic and Jurassic Park and Flintstones, and doing set and prop design, prop making and stuff like that, set painting. And then just working in all these different industries, you can come in contact with people. People always ask me, how do you get into the industry? You always start off, at the bottom. So if you want to get into the video game industry, you want to be a playtester. If you want to get into the TV business, you want to be a page, seeding live audiences. And I learned that from Deborah Newmeyer after sneaking onto the back lot of Universal Studios, getting past three security guards, 2 secretaries, and an assistant to Deborah Newmeyer, who told me to not break into the park. This is before 9/11, and to just get a job working as a page where I would have access to all of the studios. And so I did that. I was a page, and she said, hey, if you want to be a cameraman, make friends with the cameraman. You want to be a writer, be friends with the writer. You want to be an actor, be friends with them. And I just made friends, and I learned how to network. And, eventually when you work on a lot of really major projects like I have, I was the establishing art director for Elder Scrolls Online, which is a $300 million video game. That was the last project that I worked on in 2009. And I left the video game industry permanently to start my own business. And now I'm doing Disney Fine Art with the parks and all over the world with the artwork. But when you work on these high profile projects, eventually you get asked to do podcasts and speaking engagements. And I was asked to go out to Boston and talk at Harvard at this big tech summit. And, there was guys there from the X Prize creators were there. Guys that were top the line in AI. I think one of the most significant guy I met was the scientist that actually invented the world's first artificial womb, which I have a feeling that the choice people will be a little upset about because it basically kills that argument of your body, your choice, when you could take a baby out of that of you and put it into an artificial womb that can now
Yeah, that does make things a little
accommodate that.
different.
So we'll have to ask, question that moral decision that we're making there as to what will be the justification for doing that now that your body's no longer part of the equation.
Your
Oh, and
artificial,
look at that. Our viewership just dropped. No, okay.
Your artificial womb, your choice. Okay, no, that doesnn't work.
Well,
Anyway.
I love children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and I am pro-life. I have no problem telling people that. I mean, there's circumstances that warrant it, but for me, I cherish life. I value life in all of its forms, and I don't eat a lot of meat, people. I don't. I did in vitro with 3 of my children, so I wanted my kids, and they're the best gifts of my life. And everybody has their own decision making on that subject, but I was just fascinated by scientists that are pushing the boundaries of what we can do. And I think there will be a point at some point the aging process will be arrested because we'll have figured it all out. And Elon Musk is connecting computers to the brain, and you can control computers with your mind now. At some point we'll have a transcendence, which coming from the video game industry, having worked on a lot of VR projects, it's fascinating. It's also terrifying,
Yes.
like, the whole metaverse that, the last podcast I was on, I was asked about the metaverse and what I thought about it. And quite
still not as good as Second Life.
frankly, I'm nervous because, right. And well, we already did that. And how did it go?
That wedding was a little bit like, you saw the wedding, right? You saw the meta wedding from Facebook?
The thing about the metaverse that they're trying to create, if you're trying to create an online world, what are you really trying to do? You're trying to make your own country that's devoid of any regulations. It was really what they're trying to do. And that's scary. I know this from a game standpoint because the government was terrified of massive multiplayers. And look, I was working on Elder Scrolls Online, so I know better than anybody the power that those worlds weld. And you were talking about virtual items that have no real world.
Yep.
They have real world value, but they're not physical items. The NFT thing has become a thing, and one kill shot from the sun and it's all over. None of that stuff is worth anything, and it's not regulated. So you've got some issues there.
With $1 million, I can now one shot every enemy in this game. It was worth it. I'm not going to use it ever again.
I mean, you get a CME from the sun, it bombs us back to the Stone Age, and then what's your NFT worth? Nothing. So I still like books. I just do. I don't iPad my books. I buy the books. I like books. So as much as we're advancing in the future for things, it's like that Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Just because we could do it, should we? Who's making these rules and to what end? Where are we going with our society to get you into a virtual world where the real world is not as valuable? I think that's dangerous. I do. And I'm with Elon Musk and the brightest minds on earth that are telling us to avoid AI and to not do that, So
you like,
but I've had
real books are good.
I do. I prefer real books. I mean, that's how I got started. My
mom. My wife would. She had. You got to come down to her. It's not quite. Wait.
It's not what it used to be.
It's not what it used to be, but it's not quite on the level of Beauty and the Beast's library. Where it's like, ground level up to the ceiling. 10 stories tall. But my wife has a ton of books. A lot of books. So. Yeah, I don't you have it physically anymore. Like you said, I mean, well, here's the thing.
You download something, you're getting the rights to use it for now until the company determines, okay, we either no longer have the rights ourselves or we don't want you using that. So we can literally make it so you can't access that thing you paid for anymore.
Well, and how many movies now actually they modify the movie because it has a scene in it.
The entirety of Star Wars, his original trilogy. You can barely find the original versions of those anymore.
True, but I mean, even just even a movie that wasn't reworked like Star Wars.
Lilo and Stitch has like a couple scenes completely redone.
They'll take scenes out because they might not be. They don't live up to the standards of today, so they have to get rid of it. And they.
Can you guys still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, because my Bluetooth just died.
Oh, your Bluetooth died. Okay. The new Bluetooth you got must not have been charged all the way.
You know, I thought that it had a longer charge. It said 100%, but, you know, Bose. So let me turn up my volume a little bit so I can hear you better. All right, how's that? Okay.
That's good.
But yeah, you know, the thing about
in digital form, you don't really have the movie. You have it in digital form and you're watching it online. They can change that movie. Yeah, that movie does not have to stay the same.
Or they can say you don't get to watch the movie anymore whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, anyway.
Exactly.
So,
well, you know, that started in the video game world.
Yeah,
you know, GameStop, they were reselling the games. They still are. And, you know, it's really to stop piracy from people just taking a disc and copying it. Mm-hmm. So having an online scenario made it so that the people that make the games for millions and millions of dollars would ultimately protect their IP. But you're right. Now it's made it so that they could just pull the plug and you don't have it anymore.
Yeah,
so
I've heard of stuff about games just being taken off of the digital store, and now the only way to get it is find someone who's selling their console that had it downloaded.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, that's why I like doing art. We wouldn't know anything about the world if it wasn't for artists. You know, we know about the Aztecs and the Egyptians because artists wrote on the walls and painted pretty pictures on pots. So art, tangible physical art that stands the test of time is what I prefer. That is my main source of income. I'm a park gallery artist, so you can find my paintings in Walt Disney World, Downtown Disney, DCA and Off the Page, and in Disneyana. I will have 3 new paintings coming out beginning of the year. They were supposed to come out this year, but with a big transition of a lot of the executives, they've all kind of been swapped out lately. They're trying to get caught up, and you know, the international Epcot festival, the art festival that they have at the beginning of the year is really dominating their time. So they're trying to get caught up in this new system and everything. So, but I will have 3 new paintings coming out. One of them is a Pirates of the Caribbean, and then there's 2 Haunted Mansion paintings, and I'm really excited about them. One of them I took five months to paint, and it's got a lot of the original Mark Davis characters in it, and the original Alice Davis costuming, which if people are paying attention. Now that's actually the Haunted Mansion 50th anniversary painting that I did. That's also for the 50th. Both the originals sold. In fact, they've all sold out. The Haunted Mansion, Disneyland Haunted Mansion one, sold out in a lottery system, and that was really exciting. I was sitting right next to Kim Irvine, the park art director, super sweet lady. Her mom played Madame Leota, if any of the Disney historians are out there. And she actually plays her mom's part for the Tim Burton version. And so, you know, it's kind of cool to have done that. I showed it to my friend Bob Gurr, and he said that's a beautiful rendition of the mansion. And Kim Irvine wanted one, but it was all sold out, so I couldn't get her one. And so it's moments like that I live for, where I've got, you know, legends that are, you know, of the knew Walt and worked with Walt and are giving me a nice pat on the back. I mean, that's a huge ego boost when you've got people of that caliber giving you the thumbs up. So that's what I strive for. That I if Walt were alive, I would, you know, I'd want to know what he thinks. Did I hit the mark? Did I do good enough? I'm always thinking that way when I'm doing a painting. Can I live up to Walt's standards, which were the highest?
Sure.
And so I think I've you know, based off of audience support, I think I've done a pretty good job at giving people what I think they want. I always go a lot more realistic than the other gallery artists who kind of cartoonized the Haunted Mansion. It was very squash and stretch. I wanted to do Disneyland as if these places actually existed, because they did. I mean, the Haunted Mansion was the Shipley Light Decker house out in Maryland, and I lived out in Maryland when I was working with the Elder Scrolls Online team. That was Maryland, and the Shipley Light Decker house was a real physical property. In fact, we wouldn't have even known about it had it not been for an archivist that took pictures of the wrought iron because he thought it was beautiful. And there's only just I think there's like one photograph, or like that's it. And then they demolished it. Well, Frank Thomas, I think it was, when they were searching for different mansions that they could use, found it, and then did a paint over where he literally just painted right over the photograph practically. I mean, it's almost identical to it, but they changed the top. And the top at Disneyland has like a baby bottle type top. And that's because the rest of New Orleans had already been built. And they had that kind of themed rounded top. They didn't want the harsh. Walt Disney didn't like harsh edges. He didn't like 90-degree anything. Take it from a cartoonist, it makes sense. So this has the baby bottle top, but I have done a version of this painting of the Shipley Light Decker house, which has this original square top, which is much larger of a top because it's more practical. Whereas in the one in Disneyland is more just for scale. They wanted to make it look bigger. And that's actually a real house as well, believe it or not. I forgot what the name of the house is that it was based on. But Walt Disney went to New Orleans and fell in love with Jean Lafitte the pirate, which is what Pirates of the Caribbean is based off of. That's why it's called Lafitte's Landing. There's a Jean Lafitte's pirate ship, the Pride, Anchor, which is at Disneyland. You can see the anchor right in front of the attraction. And so I ultimately went out to New Orleans to kind of get a sense of what he fell in love with. And I was just blown away. I now know why Disney wanted to basically build New Orleans in Anaheim and live there. It's just a gorgeous city, beautiful people, amazing culture, incredible food. The music is off the chain. I mean, it's a party 24/7, year round, rain or shine.
Through, but I've never stayed.
Yeah. So for me, it was neat to kind of go and see what Walt fell in love with. And so I always kind of gravitate when I'm doing my paintings towards the classics and what was Walt thinking. I really don't do a lot of paintings that are connected to modern properties. I mean, I was asked by the directors of Frozen to do the castle.
No,
the ice castle.
Keep me away from that.
I like the movie. I thought the movie was good. It's got some good music in it. I thought that Olaf was a cute sidekick. I love that character. Wasn't a huge fan of the sequel, but it's challenging for anybody to kind of recapture something that did. It
was basically Final Fantasy the movie, better than the actual Final Fantasy movie.
You can criticize Disney movies into the ground.
It must control the 4 elements.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Kids like it, I mean, I think back when Disney was alive, the movies were geared towards adults and kids, the whole family experience. But I think they lean more towards kids these days than trying to appease the adults. But I liked it. I liked that movie a lot. I thought it was a home run.
Yeah, and there were definitely some good songs in it, good characters.
Weezer did a great cover.
Weezer did a great cover. You're talking about
Frozen 2.
Frozen 2. Oh, that was the only good part about Frozen 2 was Weezer. But I still like Tangled for whatever. I love Tangled. Between Frozen and Tangled, I still gravitate toward Tangled as one of my favorites. So you liked some of the. I've got a few of the. I guess what would be considered a classic here as well. Let me bring this up real quick. So yeah, here we've got Beauty and the Beast, which I would put that in the classics column, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Now, Scott Coleman's my agent. James Coleman was an art director, I believe, who was doing color theory and stuff like that, stylizing the Beauty and the Beast backgrounds. When I was in college, the Beauty and the Beast team, because I was going to PCC at the time and I was in the art department, the whole art department of our college got to see Beauty and the Beast before it was out in various stages of completion. And I got to talk to Glenn and show him my portfolio many years. I think it was like 1992 or something like that, 91, 92, something like that. And Glenn looked at my stuff and said, "Yeah, you should apply for Disney." And that's where I was. That's where my head was at. Of course, I took a big sidetrack in the video game industry for many years, but around 1995, I got to work with the Imagineers, and then later got to art direct the Disney's Atlantis video game, which I didn't put my name on the credits because it was probably not the best rendition of a game connected to an animated movie, and the movie didn't do very well.
No.
Yeah, Atlantis not so much of a hit. But I did get to art direct that a little bit, and then ultimately, now as a Disney fine artist, I've gotten to work in different capacities of art. So first with the Imagineering, then with the video game world, and then finally as a fine artist. When I was in high school, the very first oil painting that I ever did was Pinocchio. It was a Pinocchio painting. And it was an oil painting, very first one I ever did. And my teacher said, "Hey, you've got a career in art." And so years later, this was one of the first paintings that I did. And actually, if you pay attention to what you're looking at there, it's the entire Pinocchio story in one painting. So you've got Geppetto sending his son off to school, and then you've got the fox who is going to distract him from that effort. And then you see Stromboli poster where he's headed, the direction of where he's headed. Kind of foreshadowing the trouble he's going to get in. And then you've got Jiminy Cricket, his conscience above, who will save him from that direction he's headed. And then you've got the blue fairy in the background overseeing the entire thing in the sky and the stars. So, I thought, I didn't intend for the painting to have the entire Pinocchio story in one shot. It just kind of worked out that way. The voice of Pinocchio actually has the original of this one. Before he passed away, his family owns it.
Oh, wow.
Which was kind of nice. So full circle moment.
Yeah, Marcus, what you were saying about this movie.
This is one of the more of those adult Disney movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's got some.
Got some language.
A little bit,
if you can consider that by today's standards.
Yeah. But,
that's Pinocchio and Dumbo and Fantasia did not do very well for the company. They were hurting, and it was Cinderella where Walt was thinking, should I take a risk on another animated movie? And they'd lost their European distribution because of the war, and so if I'm not mistaken, I think Cinderella really transformed the company because it was such a massive success. And I did do a Cinderella painting as well. When they did the live action, I did a Cinderella painting where there were 10 proofs, and I actually put Swarovski crystals in the painting itself. I actually adhered them with jeweler's glue, and so her shoe sparkles. And there's probably about, I don't know, like 25, 30 different Swarovski crystals in the proofs. And Swarovski was I think one of the sponsors of the live action film. So I thought that was fun. And so this is actually so when I do a painting, I'm thinking, how do I make it different than what everybody else has done? So this scene is a famous scene. Everybody knows it, where she's running down the stairs and loses her slipper. Well, so I took that scene and I told a different part of the movie, which is, every girl does this right before they walk into an event, a big party. They check themselves out and they do a once over. So this is called, I think it's called One Last Look. And so the coachmen are looking at her while she's kind of admiring and taking in the moment before she goes into the event. And I thought that was a much better depiction than having her sweaty running down the stairs in a flurry, losing a shoe. Even though that's obviously a very important part of the story, it's just been done to death. So every time I do a painting, I'm trying to think of different interesting ways to make it new. And generally, it's showing a scene that exist but didn't exist.
Right. So
same with the Star Wars anniversary painting, where it's got the land speeder is being sold to the Jawa. Well, that was the fastest approved painting by ILM during the anniversary of Star Wars ever. I was shocked. I literally got instant approval. George had seen it and said, "I love it, approve it." So it's that famous scene where Luke is going down in the Star Speeder with Obi-Wan, and they're about to go into the cantina, And
Right.
then Obi-Wan says, hey, you've got to sell your speeder to get off. And he's like, well, there's nothing left on this rock for me here.
Mhm.
Well, that's the scene that I painted. I painted them taking off with Han Solo, where the Houdini purchased. They purchased it, and if you look closely, the sign that's in the window says "for sale" in the Jawa language. If people are paying attention to that,
Heather
and you
was
can get
saying-
that on Acme Archives. AcmeArchives.com, I think, still has a few prints left.
I don't have that one up here, but yeah, no. Heather was saying
Acme
she
Archives
likes little-
Direct.com.
She likes little nuggets and things that people put in paintings, so she's enjoying that.
Yes.
This is not that painting, but this is another one you did, Star Wars wise.
Yes, that's the energy surrounds us, and that's they asked me to do some Star Wars stuff, so I'm a massive Yoda fan, and this scene in particular was iconic. And
You like Fozzie Bear?
when people were buying the proofs, I put a little glow paint, a really high end glow paint in it, so that when the lights go off, you can actually see the Force emanating from Yoda's hand and lifting up the X-wing.
Oh,
So
neat.
I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, that's we're Yoda fans. Marcus was
You like Fozzie Bear?
Yes, I do. Yoda, you are a very Jedi master. Yeah, I do voices, by the way, professionally. Aside from doing
I saw
art,
something
and
about you do
music and
voiceovers and
Hollywood
things like that, or you do things. Yeah. So you do.
Yeah.
We might have to hire you sometime.
Yeah, I do a lot of trailers for movies. Picture a world where you are an idiot. No, I'm just. Yeah, I've done about 1,000 voiceovers. Again, I voiced a lot of my own characters for my project, as well as Growums, which was a national product that came out teaching children how to grow their own vegetables. And I produced 75 characters for that project and voiced a lot of the male characters. It was featured on The View. Not a huge fan of The View, but it was on that show nevertheless. And so it was really fun, kind of not only animating, learning how to animate, but to voice the characters, to write the scripts, to do everything, edit. I mean, I really was a one-man Pixar. I did everything from beginning to end.
Nice.
So it's a good gig.
So you've got quite a few. You're with the Disney Fine Art collection that you've got. There's quite a bit you've got out there. This one here is another one. It's not a scene that was in the movie per se, but you're sort of putting some things together and coming up with a different take on Tinkerbell here.
Yeah, Tinkerbell's Sanctuary. So I thought maybe she goes to a private place every once in a while, just relaxes and looks into the reflecting pool. And so that was actually a concept artwork I was doing for Friendlians that was going to be an alien world. But I thought, man, this would make more sense to make it a Tinkerbell scene and just make it more fantasy based. So that sold out very quickly. In fact, all of my stuff is completely sold out at this point. I need new stuff out on the wall.
You're too good. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think what else we've got here. So you right here on the bottom, we've got going across the ticker here for quite a while, but this is where you sell your fine artwork. Is that right?
Well, you can only get the Disney stuff in the park itself. So you can't buy Disney prints from me directly. I still have a few printers proofs and stuff that I release on my Facebook page from time to time. It's all private sale. But all of the Disney paintings can only be bought exclusively at the parks.
Okay.
So don't hit me up for Disney stuff. But if you want non-Disney stuff or Disney-esque styled stuff, because I do have a few that are in the vein of pirates and haunted mansion-esque type stuff, then you can go to wishpictures.com, and there's a whole variety of stuff. I'm doing a whole pirate series coming up here next year. My fans really want me to do more pirate stuff. So if you're a pirate fan, then, follow me on Instagram, Joel Christopher Payne on Instagram. The Elf King has a store, and that's going to be geared more towards fantasy stuff connected to the show, and just to all the holidays. So if you go to theelfking.com, you can check out things. I've got some really cool stuff on there right now. Like I've got this bag that's a duffel bag, really high end, and it looks like a wizard's bag. So every side has graphics on it that make it look like it's a real leather wizard's bag with wands stuck in it. And I think I've got a witch's bag on there, and I was going to do a Doctor Strange-esque type bag. And so I've got a lot of themed products on there that are really fun. And then Friendlians.club, that's for ages 3 to 7, 3 to 8. And that's my children's network. And the app is only, I think it's free right now on Android. But you can download it and you get a whole bunch of cartoons that teach children family values and life lessons using evidence-based research on the best way to teach children things that parents want their kids to learn. So even before the Santa movie came along, I was pretty much already teaching children to be good. So if there was ever a Santa,
it's just part of your nature.
Compare me to him a lot, And,
it's just
hey,
your
Christmas
nature.
is my busiest time of the year, so I guess it fits.
I mean, the Santa thing fits. If the shoe fits, you gotta wear it, right?
People say I'm a good-looking Santa. I'm the Santa that they never thought that they wanted, but really want. I got 100,000 followers on TikTok in just 3 months. So I just crossed over. I'm like 101,000 followers. When you think about that, that's like, the Staples Center filled up a couple times. So that's a lot of people. And I do these little fun videos.
HipsterSaintNick? Is it HipsterSaintNick?
Yeah, HipsterSaintNick on TikTok. And I was against TikTok because I saw a lot of the content, and it's mostly a lot of scantily clad women that are getting millions of likes. And I just thought it was just a wretched place for people. But I also discovered there's a lot of kids on there, and I thought, it might be a rotten place for some things, but I could at least offer some family entertainment that's more wholesome on that platform, where parents could be rest assured that I'm not going to be cussing and swearing and teaching them bad ideas.
Right.
So I got on there, and I found out very quickly that that's what people want. I think one of the first videos I made was telling people, are you tired of this platform just being so negative? Are you interested in hearing something fun and having a good time? And I got lots of followers, from that one little video.
That's good. I mean, it definitely could use a positive influence on TikTok. We thought about doing TikTok. I mean, we've got YouTube.
I've never even considered going on there once.
Really? Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's got the lowest common denominator stuff on there, and then it's got some good stuff on there. But we thought about doing TikTok, and we've got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, website, Twitter, all WDWpov, just nice 6 letters. I thought about doing TikTok, and I kept holding off. Same reasons why you probably did. And and WDWpov was still available on it. And then I finally decided I'm going to go ahead and try and start. And somebody had taken it for some weird, I don't know, something completely unrelated to
a competitor podcast.
Yeah. But
a Grand Circle Vision, a Grand Circle Tour. Hey, it's funny. I was on that show. One of the hosts has left. So she's going to start her own podcast. I'll go on her podcast. Anything connected to Disney and podcasting, I think, is fun. The fans get a little insight that they don't normally get from the bigwigs that you get at Disney, who are going to they're going to give it in a particular way. This is a little more raw. I got to hang out with Bob Gurr many times. He's an incredible storyteller. Xavier Atencio, Alice Davis. I mean, these are legends, and they had some really funny stories that you don't find in any book. And I think one of the best stories that Bob told me was he said opening day, it was very hot day. Oh, yeah. And he really, Walt hired him because he thought that he knew how to build cars. He was not a car engine builder. He actually when he was tasked with Autopia, Walt said, "You could do this, right?" He says, "Yes." He couldn't do it. He had to learn how to build engines on the fly. So opening day, all of the cars were broken down because he didn't really know what he was doing. And,
so Disney Imagineering legend is a liar?
Well, no, he learned on the job. I mean, he was good enough that he delivered. And so, but it was opening day. All the cars had broken down. He was underneath one of them trying to get it working again. And Walt comes by and says, "Well, I guess we got to get this up and running again, Bobby." And he says, "Hey, Walt, I would really love to have like a garage or something. I'm dying out here. I'm dying." So Walt disappeared for a little while, and he came driving a tractor, pulling a giant shed behind him. Said, "Where do you want your damn garage?" And so Walt was a guy that didn't just, he knew that the pressure was on. He didn't berate his staff. He didn't add to the fire. He was a problem solver, so he just solved the problem. Right. And you hear from these people that worked with Disney that the kind of person that Walt was. He was no doubt he was an authoritarian. He had his hands on everything. He knew where every tree was planted, every rock was placed. But that OCD was a good thing. It was a great thing because he really had a good sense about him, and he was the maestro, and everybody that worked under him looked up to him. When he died, they're all saying, "What would Walt do?" Because they didn't know. Right. So he was really kind of instrumental. I mean, think about it. Walt Disney created more jobs in America around the world than all of our American presidents combined. I mean, that's just a fact. When you think about all of the jobs that Disney has in their massive empire over the years since Walt came onto the scene, that's billions of jobs from a guy that didn't graduate high school.
Are the way.
Private businesses are the way, Marcus says. Private business versus government.
Well, he was a capitalist. I mean, he was a capitalist. This because he intentionally put blacktop on Main Street that would get hotter than normal blacktop, so that it would push you into the air-conditioned stores. I mean, he was a businessman, so he wanted to make money and play with his big toys. And look what he gave us. He gave us a world of magic and inspiration and patriotism. And
a world of tears.
A world of
he gave us hope. Look, when you go to Disneyland, you're not looking at a theme park. You're looking at a man who achieved his dreams against impossible odds, against the naysayers that want to criticize him. He did it. And
that's one of the reasons I like, and he loves going on Carousel of Progress
for now
at Disney World, because that's one of the, that's really, that's one of the rides that Walt actually had his hands on that's at Disney World. Everything else there, unfortunately, because he passed earlier than he should have, did not get a chance to.
Yeah, and it was a big surprise to everybody. I think it was even a surprise to Walt, But think about it. If it wasn't for Walt Disney, he's still an innovator. He's still the top of the heap when it comes to animation. Because let's be honest, audio animatronics, which you saw in the Carousel of Progress, the Pirates of the Caribbean, those robots are more 3D than Pixar's 3D, right? I mean,
I'm sorry. Was I doing something?
I thought you were turning into a robot. An animatronic.
I went to Bob Gurr's his birthday party, and they wanted to roast him. And I went to his roast, and he walked up like this, up to the stage. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
Well, he built the original. Designed, I should say, the original Abraham Lincoln audio animatronic figure for the World's Fair. Yeah. And it bled. It bled. It had red. They wanted to make it authentic, so they put red. What's that oil that for compression?
Yeah, I know.
The hydraulic fluid.
And
they used red, oil, and it bled, unfortunately, and that was a very alarming thing for people to see. As Abraham Lincoln sunk over, with blood coming out of his chest. Not a good look.
That would have been really scary if it was coming out of his eyeballs.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were right. I mean, that was done with
that original body capture out exoskeleton.
Yeah, life mask.
Yeah, it was like they had the guy making the motions that then translated into the motions that they programmed into
Right. That was motion capture, basically, a very
Before
rudimentary motion capture. I mean,
and it
Walt
looked less
was
ridiculous.
really, he may not have come up with those, with the technology, but he's the one that came up with the idea,
Mhm.
you know, that,
And it still looked less ridiculous than the green skin tight suit with a bunch of ping pong balls.
yeah. Yeah. And I've been a motion capture director. I've done mocap. So, there's a lot of things came out of the Disney company that were new. I mean, I think Walt had a hold on the Technicolor license, so no other animation company could have color for a certain duration of time. I mean, he's a very smart businessman. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man.
That's good. Yeah. So, yeah, we actually, it is fun to talk to people who have actually met Walt. I mean, that's like one of the ultimates, like you and Bob Gurr. That's, I mean, and to meet them face to face, that's even better.
Well, if you want to meet somebody that's very Walt-like, Bob Gurr is that guy. He is a genius, no doubt, and he understood Walt very well. He told me that a lot of the other Imagineers got really upset with him. They didn't like him because Walt would always hand him the best projects, and that is because Walt knew that he would get it done right. They didn't have any conflict. One of the things that he did, he designed all the cars going up and down Main Street, and he was telling me that one day, he's like, "Well, Walt, you got this firehouse, but you got no fire truck in it." And the next day, he had the budget for it, and he calls that his fire truck, and it is. On loan to Disney, of course. Yeah, so he just had a great life working with that man.
Yeah.
When I got to meet Xavier Atencio right before he passed, he was having difficulties talking. He was struggling. He was at the end of his life. But the second you mentioned Walt, his eyes glowed, and he just came to life. And you could see the kind of impact that man had on so many people's lives. The people that worked with him have so much respect for him. They would never say anything negative against him because he was the magic maker. He changed the world with his magic. Yeah. Imagine a world without Disney. It would be a pretty bleak no magic in the world, without him bringing all these opportunities of allowing us to touch the magic by going to these parks. It was such an innovative idea,
It certainly caused a massive ripple effect across the entire world.
It did. It absolutely
did. Yeah.
Yeah, we got
so
to bring
Walt is my hero. I mean, he's my number one guy.
And like you said, what would things be like if he had been around even a little longer? I don't know, but
I'm trying to pick up where he left off on animatronics with my toy technology. Although I will be honest, I've run into the same problems that he did when he was trying to pitch Disneyland, and they didn't know what it was. People just don't understand what we've done, and I've been sitting around 10 years trying to explain it to people. I remember pitching to
maybe I'll understand. Yeah. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Explain it to Marcus here. Let's see if
Toy Story for real.
You sort of went through it, but I'm still, let's see.
It's literally Toy Story for real. We could reproduce the movie Toy Story, and we can control robotics with it. I mean, they wouldn't be running around like until robotics get sophisticated. I don't know if I'd want toys running around like you and me, but we could reproduce the entire show, all of the movies, all of the Pixar films. We could take the actual toys, and those toys would produce all of their lines on cue.
So what you're telling me is you've given Disney their next major cash grab in this live action remake era?
I'm not working with Disney on the origin story, and I'm not working with Disney on the toys. I don't think that they would do a very good job with it. They did have a Mickey toy that they tried to have interact with the park, and it was a train wreck. It didn't work.
Well, right now they're doing pretty decent with the Spider-Man robot.
I haven't seen that attraction yet, so
I haven't either, but I've seen a couple clips of it here and there, and it's swinging over top. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, the robot. Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
robot that simulates gymnastics. You know, it's doing
Yeah.
aerobatics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there was a time when I thought by now we'd already have a fully articulated robot running around, walking around like you and me.
Well, I
And
thought
I
6
think they
years
could
ago
do
we'd
that
have
very easily.
hoverboards.
But I don't know if people are ready for that. Anytime you get new technology, people are afraid of it. You know, it's scary.
Honestly, I thought 6 years ago we'd have hoverboards and flying cars and Jaws 11.
Well, we do have flying cars. They're just not. They don't go very far.
No.
So I have seen a flying car. There are many, just like you would think, just like the Jetsons, and they do exist. There's actually I think there's $100,000 car that you can get right now that's for sport that is a flying car. It's a drone car.
That'd be cool. I have seen one. I don't know if it's similar to one you're looking at or looked at, but yeah, I think that I saw some footage of it out on a desert somewhere.
Yeah,
it was going very quickly. I mean, it was going right along.
I mean, there's a guy trying to create a hover bike, and he did it. I mean, there it is.
I saw that.
I think that all of the things that we saw in the Jetsons has kind of come true. I mean, you really have Roddenberry to thank for a lot of this stuff. I mean, Star Trek has introduced a lot of ideas that were ultimately adopted by scientists that made them a reality. Our phones being the most obvious communicator, teleportation. Those things are happening. There's a holographic teleportation device that you step into a box and it gives you the illusion of a real person standing in front of you at the other end. So we're getting closer to that Star Trek world. I'm friends with Rod Roddenberry. I took him to Club 33 with a good friend of mine. I was talking to him about my toy tech, and he really believes like I've got the Star Trek computer with the tech that I've got. I also explained to him how we could do the holodeck. So I've got a way that we could do the holodeck for real, where you touch the walls and they're actually there. So I talked about that on another podcast. I think all of that stuff is totally tangible. I don't know why it wouldn't be possible.
After that one episode with Riker and the holodeck, I'm a little scared of that technology being real.
Well, this is how you would do it. And if I explain it to you, maybe you won't be so scared. So imagine going to a warehouse and we build out a maze out of very affordable materials. In the film business, we call this vacuum form plastic. And so you make one brick panel, right? You make one out of real brick, and then you take the plastic and it vacuum forms to that brick, replicating that surface. And then you paint it to make it look like brick. So it's a very light and cheap material. So imagine building out an entire maze in a warehouse of that cheap, affordable material. And then you rig it with sound and maybe some wind, some heat, sensors and stuff like that. Then you build in 3D that exact maze down to the inch. And then you put on augmented reality glasses, and with telemetry, you know exactly where you're looking and where you're positioned in that world. And it superimposes CG on top of that physical environment. And maybe the walls can move and relocate themselves so that just like the holodeck, you're really just running in circles where you think you're going great distances. You're really just on one little place. Like you get into an elevator, you feel like you're moving, but you're not really moving. And then you get in, you're off to floor 2, but you're really on floor 1, but everything's changed.
Right.
You know, so there's ways of doing it right now with existing technology.
Sort of like the old, remember the sea base at Epcot? They used to have that sea base where it made you feel like you were on an elevator going, down like 60, 100 feet, 200 feet, but you just dropped maybe a floor if that.
It sounds a little bit like Universal's Mario Kart ride, where you can see a piranha plant standing over there, and then it may do like a flash of light, and then on your glasses you see the fireball coming towards you.
Oh, okay.
Well, you'd look down the hallway without the glasses, and you'd see a box with a chair and maybe a circle. Put the thing on, you've got a Formula 1 car. You get into it, it's a little motion simulator. You feel like you're moving, you're not going anywhere. You get out, you're in a new town, but you're really in the same place. I mean, there's a lot of easy ways of doing that with illusions. But I worked on in 1999 the Lisbon's World's Fair Oceania, which was the world's first dome projection system, which ultimately led to soaring over California. So that full immersion where your peripheral vision is completely obscured was a thing. And so being in an environment that completely immerses you without glasses, we've done that. I remember back at SIGGRAPH seeing TVs where you didn't need 3D glasses, but it simulated the 3D. And I don't know where that technology went. It got better and better, and then it just disappeared. But at some point, I think we'll have full 3D TVs or some alternate version of that with AR glasses, most likely, where we could see the actors around us and stuff like that. The question is, do you want that? I don't want to be in the movie. I just want to sit back and watch it
to get everything at that point. Like, I can watch a normal movie, and on the 5th time, I'm finally seeing something I never saw before. But now it's like the entire thing. I have to watch it at least 50 times to get everything out of it.
Yeah, what's going on behind you might be something important to the movie, but you're not going to see it. Because
you got to understand is that Disney has run up against this wall. You know, I mean, let's look at Haunted Mansion. What is it? It's basically just a carriage where you're just looking and seeing things. You're not really interacting with anything. Yeah. I mean, it's just a dog and pony show, really. No offense to the Haunted Mansion fans. That's my second most favorite attraction. Okay, so I think that those illusions are incredible. Pepper's Ghost. I'm a member of the Magic Castle, so I really appreciate how that attraction still holds up after all these years. But let's be honest. People want to not just stand in line and then go into an experience. They want to be in the city and feel like they're in the movie. That's why you've got Harry Potter Land and Galaxy's Edge and all that stuff, where that's where Disney's headed. They're headed to more projection systems where they can easily swap out the movie that's being projected, like in Mickey's Train, the Runaway Train. And it's not going to cost a lot of money to completely strip the attraction down to the ground again, rebuild it with a bunch of physical things. It's now projection technology. And I think that's really the future. In fact, if I were to be so bold, I think that at some point Disney will have, or at least if I don't beat them to the punch, an amusement park that comes to you where you put on the headset and, you know, it will extrapolate in real time objects. So, for example, you'll see a chair, the couch, and it will put a bounding box around that for collision detection. And it will put a CG couch over that. And basically use your dimensions of your room to simulate the world. You won't have to go to that maze at some point in a warehouse. It'll just extrapolate the world around you and cartoonize it, you know, with fantasy elements.
Yeah. We got a great question here. If that's your second favorite attraction, what is your favorite attraction?
Well, I will tell you that it started my Disney career. And that is, I was a 5-year-old boy. I'd gone to Disneyland with my mother. I was on the Pirates of the Caribbean in the swamp section, and this is in my bio. If anybody goes to Wish Pictures, they'll see I tell this story because it really did change my life. And I was on this ride, and I look over at my mom. And I said, "Mom, the robots, they look so real." And without hesitation, she looks over to me and says, "Sweetheart, those are the waiters." I was looking at the Blue Bayou and the people holding the trays going by, thinking they were on a track of some kind, because she had warned me about robots being in the thing, and I didn't. I was 5, you know, and so you'd think that would destroy my illusions of fantasy, but instead it emboldened me because I was so blown away that Disney can really fool me that way as a kid, and I wanted to be an Imagineer like that. And then many years later, I would ultimately do the virtual Jungle Cruise, and ironically would also write a story treatment for the Pirates of the Caribbean version of that, which unfortunately our company didn't get to do that. It was handed over to another team that I feel didn't do as good a job as I think I could have. They had a different budget and they were trying to do it on the cheap. And I think we would have done it much better. And ironically, the story that I had, because in my version of the virtual version of the Pirates ride, comparable to the virtual Jungle Cruise, I wanted to shoot at the pirates. I mean, what kid in Pirates didn't want to grab a musket and use it as shooting gallery? I mean, come on, that's what boys do. You can take away every gun. I will chew into toast, a gun, and start banging with with my siblings.
Oh no, you'll get
that was an Indian.
Cool.
Yeah, horrible.
Don't do that to your Pop-Tart.
Well, it's all politically incorrect now. So, yeah, the guns have all been taken. They're now bubble wands. So, but back in the in the 90s, when I was doing the virtual dongle cruise, I had this great idea on how to get around the politically incorrectness nature of shooting a pirate. So the story that I wrote for the attraction, that again, they didn't use my story for the attraction, but if I tell you some of the details in this, it might sound familiar. So I thought, let's do a ghost ship. It'll be a phantom ship of pirates. And the ghosts, when the moon hits them, you could see their skeleton, and that's when you could shoot at them. And so you're not really killing a living person, you're killing a dead person. So that's how I was going to get around.
Sort of like a reverse of the Black Pearl.
Yeah, sounds a lot like the Black Pearl, doesn't it?
Yes, well, I don't know who ultimately got that story or where that went, but I was a little surprised when Pirates of the Caribbean came out, the movie.
Yeah. And
it had a lot of similarities to the little story idea I had for this attraction that got scuttled. Well, so
I'll tell you what, I think this is not a joke, but it's my son David. He's 31 now.
Yeah.
Okay. So when he was a kid, and he has great ideas. He's very creative, a lot like you. Just he just comes up with these ideas. And he said something about, I don't know why, but he said something while we were at Disney, in our room at the parks. I'm not sure what. But he had some goofy idea of having a cartoon with a naked mole rat. Nobody knew what a naked mole rat was back then. It was like,
it seems like based on your facial expression, you still don't know what one is.
Yeah, it's basically, it looks like sort of like a
hamster gerbil with no hair.
Thing, just no
Imagine a hairless cat, but as like a hamster or a mole, a gerbil, something like that.
Wouldn't you know, about a year or two later, Disney, on the Disney Channel,
Kim Possible.
If you ever watched the cartoon Kim Possible, one of the characters is a naked mole rat. I think maybe they listen in on your conversations and take the better idea. Maybe so that might be what they did to you. They knew your idea.
I don't know, and I don't really care. And if my idea lent itself to some other idea, then great. I mean, that's pretty much how all of Disney works. It was a culmination of a lot of talented people contributing a lot of ideas that led to other ideas.
Yeah.
You know what?
I don't care about credit. On any of that stuff. I would have loved to do that attraction. That's what I would have loved. I could have cared who, look, when we did the virtual jungle cruise, we had to sign a non-disclosure to never tell anybody that what company actually built the attraction. And I won't mention that here, but if you do a little research, the people in the industry knew that, but everything's under the Disney umbrella. And rightly so. I mean, the Imagineers are the ones that built the platform, the rapids, raft on top of the 6 air compartment physical ride in front of the screen that had spritzes of water, which we ultimately turned off because it was causing molding. But they built that, and it was their idea, but it was an outside company that came in and ultimately did all the visuals and did all the play testing and wrote all the code so that the paddles that had the roller wheels on the bottom would react to sensors that would steer you down this virtual rapids ride. And so, I got at the end of the whole thing, I got an Imagineering jacket. And even though I didn't work with Imagineering internally, we were doing exactly what the Imagineers were doing. So it qualifies, in my opinion.
Right.
I built the track. I mean, I built the rapids every bump and waterfall that you went over. That was me. I had complete control over that. I rode that thing all summer long, which is a great job to have. Let me tell you, riding a Disney attraction all summer long. There's nothing like it. I mean, I really wish that I continued making those types of attractions. So I really thought that was the future of ride entertainment, and that would be what I would be doing for the rest of my life, which would have been a dream job. But unfortunately, Disney Quest had a lot of stinkers and not a lot of value. and the people didn't think that the price justified what you got. And there were
Well,
only
it had
really
more
two
value than
really good top
the NBA
attractions. One
experience.
being the virtual jungle cruise, the other one being the build your own roller coaster, which is ironic because I ultimately went to go work for Zombie Games, the company that built that one, doing the Disney Atlantis video game, because they had that relationship with Disney.
Yeah, no, we enjoyed Disney Quest.
Disney Quest seemed to have more value than the NBA experience.
Yeah, that thing didn't last very long. NBA experience was a big stinker. But yeah, we enjoyed Disney Quest.
But,
we rode the virtual jungle cruise a number of times. We did also do the Pirates of the Caribbean thing, which wasn't your version.
The Aladdin VR. I read a book about one of the guys who worked on that.
Oh, the Aladdin VR.
What was his name? Because he worked at our company.
I can't remember what his name was.
Jeff.
It was
Jeff.
Yeah, his name. Yeah, his name was Jeff. He was terminally ill.
Yeah, he was one of our leads on the virtual jungle cruise. That carpet experience, which is a VR experience, was the predecessor to our relationship at the company I was at that led to that. So he was on our project. He's actually the guy that gave me the Disney Imagineering jacket.
You may have been mentioned in the book then. I don't know.
I doubt it. I'm not mentioned in too many books. Although I'm in a Disney cookbook right now.
It was a brief,
which, buy the book. There's a lot of Disney people in it, and you buy it and you get some charity from it.
Yeah. But T9 is saying that they always spent about 2 or 3 evenings per trip at Disney Quest. There are people who love that place.
This book mentioned the Disney Quest Aladdin thing very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about him dealing with his life after realizing he was terminally ill.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. I don't think it couldn't have been Jeff. Although I haven't connected with him since Disney's Virtual Jungle Cruise, which was, back in 1995. So he may not be with us anymore. I worked with the great Ron Thornton, who was instrumental in bringing CG to the TV world. In fact, he was doing his company Foundation Imaging, which I went after I worked on Oceania and Disney. I went to go work on Max Steel and Starship Troopers for Ron Thornton's company, Foundation Imaging. And unfortunately, the company folded 6 months after I got there. Sony had really kind of screwed us over and picked up their marbles and went somewhere else because they did some failed negotiating. But Ron, ultimately, he passed away from cancer not too long ago. I got to work with Stan Winston. He's a good friend of mine. It's like a grandfather to me. I got to work on one project with him, which was I scored music for a track, which was going to be his first CG movie. And he actually wanted me to write the score for it. But unfortunately, he came in and told everybody that he was terminal. We all kind of cried about it. It was a horrible day. And one of the greatest creature creators in film history was gone not too much long after that. I actually went to his funeral and was sitting in the pew right behind Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Randy Pausch, there's somebody putting Randy Pausch? Posh? Is that name?
Randy?
Does that name ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, Randy. He was also at Foundation Imaging. Yeah, great guy. I mean, Foundation Imaging was an awesome company. It really was. They had They had a UFO, not a UFO, like a spaceship interior that was inside the building that you can walk through. So there was like corridors that looked like a corridor out of an alien ship, like Aliens the movie. They had full mocap. I remember one time they brought in the original Starship Enterprise, the original one that was like the size of a VW Bug, and it had all the fiber optics in it. And I can get right up to it, and didn't get to touch it, but they did roll it in. I remember there was a moment in CG history that happened at Foundation Imaging that I was privileged enough to hear the story as to how this happened. But apparently, when they were doing Star Trek Voyager, the creators wanted to know if they should go with practical model making, like they had always done with the Starship, or if they would use CG. And so Ron Thornton's company, they said, we want you to recreate this shot. So two companies got the job to do a test shot. One of them CG, another one practical. And they went to go show the exact same shot different companies, practical versus CG,
Yeah.
and they watched both in front of them. And then the creators of that show said to the model makers, not the CG, but the practical model, which one is your shot? And they chose, by complete accident, Foundation Imaging's. They said, that's ours. It's the good looking one. And that was the end of their career.
Wow. Oh,
So
my goodness.
they basically put themselves out of business. And this also happened in a similar way with I think with Jurassic Park. And again, I worked with Stan Winston, so he told me about that. He said there was a time when they were thinking about using, the old Ray Harryhausen and I think Phil Tippett had the contract with Steven, but there was this rogue guy at ILM that was making a fully articulated, muscled up T-Rex in a walk cycle, and he rogue threw it out there, even though the ILM guys, his bosses told him not to do it. He just had it on the screen when Steven was coming through the office on a tour and says, "What's that?" And he says, "Well, it's just something I'm working on." Well, it pretty much put the hand animation claymation guy completely out of business, and that was the future of animation as we know it.
I love how so many business stories, games, movies are about someone who was told, don't work on that, don't do that. Then they work on it in secret, and then the person who either said don't do that or some higher up than them sees it. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's use that.
You're hired.
That actually happened to me when I was working at Angel Studios. I was coming up with a digital backlot. I own digitalbacklot.com. So, I was all about virtual set creation and the future of, CG in replacing traditional facades. I would ultimately later convince Universal Studios to allow me to build virtual doubles, digital doubles of their Back to the Future courtyard, which I did single-handedly by myself in 2009 for their smart stage. So I brought Universal Studios in the modern age with virtual sets. But back when I was working at Angel in the 90s, I had this model library of a Western town, and they were doing this SWAT game, and they wanted to do some prototyping of this SWAT game. And I said, well, it'd be a lot better if you did a Western. And I happen to have models that you can use that for my product I'm going to sell, and I'll just let you have it. So they started using my models, and ultimately, I guess it kind of turned into Red Dead Revolver. So, I guess it gave them the spark of inspiration that maybe this should be a Western, because of my cool sets. I never got credited for it. I never worked on that project, but look, I built a Western virtual set that they used for a prototype that became Red Dead Revolver when I know they were going to be doing a SWAT game, a police SWAT game.
Wait, are you getting that name right? Or there's a game called Red Dead Revolver?
Why?
I'm not sure.
Why?
Yeah, Red Dead Revolver was the original one, and then there's Red Dead Redemption, I believe, was the sequel. Again, I had nothing to do with those things outside of providing models in a prototype sense for playtesting an engine that they were working on. They had Midtown Madness, which I also was instrumental in creating. I had a physics engine. It was me and Mark Rotenberg and Steve Vai who created the physics engine for the. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, I just love Western, so I always wanted the company to make a Western. And surprisingly, I left the company right as they were getting started on that, and I went to go work for Foundation Imaging in the TV business. I thought it was a good career choice move, because then I wouldn't have to worry about programmers so much, and I could have complete freedom. There's polygon limitations back in the video game industry, so you couldn't get away with a lot of stuff. Nothing that was too real. So I thought I'd go into the TV business for a while, do some pre-rendered stuff, and then jump back into the video game industry when they caught up. And that happened. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It took about 6 months.
Man, I don't know what haven't you done. Just about the only.
I've counted it up, and I've held about 32 different occupations in the video game, television, movie, location-based entertainment world, and now in the fine art world. I guess that makes it 5 different mediums connected with art. But I've also composed music for Steven Spielberg and Stan Winston. Stan Winston actually found me on mp3.com by complete dumb luck. I had written a what if song, like what if I was to, because I was hitting #1 on mp3.com. That was a platform where independent artists could, put up their songs and it would go up the chart, and you get pennies, and you get to make your own CD, which was great. Warner Brothers didn't like how we were superseding their process, so they ultimately bought it and destroyed the platform. But for a while, I was in the top of the film category, writing these John Williams-esque songs. So one day somebody said, "Well, why don't you write a soundtrack for Terminator 3? What would you come up with?" And I thought that was a great idea, a what if soundtrack. Okay. I get compared to Danny Elfman and John Williams all the time. Might as well do it. So I wrote this very Terminator-esque type song, and I get this call one day, and Stan's assistant said, "Is this Mr. Payne? Do you own this song? We would love to." I'm like, "This is not Stan Winston." Click, and I hang up on him. And he calls back and says, "No, this is really Stan Winston's assistant, and we're really just trying to license the song from you." And I said, "He can have it for free. I just want to meet the guy." So he says, "Well, we can't do that because you could sue us. So we got to give you something for it. But we can't arrange you to come in to meet Stan." And I wasn't that far. I lived in Santa Clarita, and he was like in Burbank somewhere. I think his studio's in Burbank. I came out. I was in his. He had a meeting room that had all of his creatures from all of his movies in this one meeting room with a long table of about 25 chairs around it. And they were all behind these red ropes, like movie ropes. Yes. And you can get right up to them, And Lestat from Interview with a Vampire was there. And he was like, Jeez. And I get up real close, and his eyeball looked like it had liquid on it. And I got panicky because I was in the room alone. And I started having heart palpitations. And to make matters worse, behind all of these creatures, I mean, we're talking about Terminator, aliens, Congo, tiny soldiers like Pumpkinhead, like horror, and ultra real. Like you could see the pores, you can see the hairs. It was as real as it gets. It was uncanny. Beyond the characters were mirrored walls. So in every direction you were looking, there was like millions of these creatures coming at you. And I kind of figured that's how Stan did his negotiations. He would lock you in that room for about an hour and then scare the hell out of you so that when he finally showed up an hour later, you'd just agree to everything that he said. I told him that too. And we made quick friends. But that he was just a brilliant artist. I think when I first saw him, I came up the stairs he has this giant bar that was like a Western style bar with the railing and everything. And behind it, tons of alcohol, pictures with Schwarzenegger, all these amazing people, presidents and stuff like that. And then there was Stan under a spotlight, music coming from the walls. It was just symphonic music. He had the speakers built into his walls, and he was just sculpting this like Olympian looking javelin throwing sculpture. And I just stood there for like 5 minutes, just watching him work, realizing, and it was an epiphany for me. I realized, wow, this is a man who isn't doing this because it's a job. He's doing it because he absolutely loves doing this. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of made me want to step up my game, because I didn't even take my career too seriously. I mean, it was a job to me. It wasn't a career. It wasn't a craft, Yeah. And so here he was doing this thing. Finally, he turns around, sees me, and says, "Hey, I was wondering, I told him to send you up. I've been waiting for you for 5 minutes." I'm like, he's like, "Well, come over here. What do you think of this?" And I said, "Stan, I am not qualified to comment on this. I am an artist. I'm a sculptor, but wow. Wow. This is what you're doing here is," I was speechless. And he said, "So you like it, is what you're saying." So, yes, Stan. Yes, you're a god to me. You're basically my hero. And he was very, very friendly. just sat down like we were longtime friends and said, well, hey, I got this toy thing and I like your music. I'm building a website out of Flash and we want to put your music behind my website. You know, what do you take for your song? And I said, you can have it. Just name your price. And he says, well, I like your music. Like I thought when I heard this song, I'm like, that's funny that they're making Terminator 3 without me. Like I didn't even know. You know, he says, well, we got this toy product, you know, where we're gonna compete with McFarlane. You know, that guy's cornered the market on action figures. So we want to do it even better than him. So we got all of our sculptors and we're gonna do these behind the scenes. So we're gonna put these little credit card CDs in with the toy and it'll give a behind the scenes. Would you be willing to do some music behind it? You know, some making of music we could put behind. I'm like, yeah. So he hired me and I literally, so he showed me Realm of the Claw, which is all these kind of Thundercat type, but very humanoid, very modern, you know. I went home and I scored the 5-minute long song in one night and it was in his email box the next day. And I remember the call that I got from his assistant. He's like, I'm going to just tell you exactly what Stan said verbatim. And we're not going to have to bleep this out, but I'll censor myself. But
make sure this is family friendly.
This is what Stan said. He's like, didn't we just hire this a-hole yesterday? I'm like, he's like, he was blown away. He wants you to come in. So then I came in the next day. He's like, Joel, where have you been all my life? You know, where are you? You did this in one night. You didn't have it already laying around. I said, no, I was so excited to work for you. I just did it. He goes, well, you know, I've got this thing called Track, which is another one of our action figures, but it's a comic book and it's kind of a Schwarzenegger Terminator type thing, kind of a Rambo. He's traveled through time. Let me show you what we've got. So they had this really cool shot that they were going to take to Comic-Con because he was about to enter in to the CG world where he was going away from practical effects. He was still going to have that business, but he was moving more into CG. He was working on Terminator 3. It was a big joke. He was actually doing the CG for Terminator 3 and with his team. And he had this shot where the camera went around the feet of this character and then it went around the waist. And by the time you got up to his beefiness, he was like this massive, oversized Schwarzenegger Terminator type guy. He had this Gatling gun that would fire at the camera. It's like this cannon of a weird, it was like the ultimate gun. And he says, well, you can see we're just in the wireframe stage. Would you be interested in doing the trailer music for this? And hey, if it works out, I'll hire you to do the soundtrack for it.
Wow.
So I went home and wrote the song for that. He gave me the footage and I did the song in one night. He's like, but he says, I also want you to do the sound effects for this gun because I think that you're a good sound guy. You could do the Foley on this thing, but this gun has to be big. So I'm like, okay. So he liked the song, but he absolutely hated the little pop gun effect that I had put in there. I thought I had done a great job. I had like a Gatling gun in there. I had slowed down a machine gun. It was really beefy and fat. I thought it was bigger than anything Terminator would have ever shot, but he says, no, not big enough. So he says, so I had these Bose headphones on and I sent him about 5 different versions of this thing, each one getting increasingly more dangerous. I think at one point at the end, I had a gutted pig and I reversed it and I had like a tornado that ramped up into the thing and I had an actual cannon that I turned into a machine gun fire. And I think I had a 747 that was winding up and I had electricity in it and thunder and lightning. I mean, it was just insane. And I said, so I called up his team and I said, I don't want to send this through the email. I want to come to the studio and see Stan's face when I play this thing. So I get to the studio. He called me a debutante for wanting to be there face to face with him. Now he's ribbing me the whole lot. So he takes me through the office, and I thought we were going to go to his little screening room that I'd seen things in before. Instead, we're in this hallway where he's got a PC with little PC speakers. Little small PC ones. I'm like, Stan, Stan, this is what you've been listening to the sound effect on? No wonder why it
Oh.
doesn't sound beefy. Are you kidding me? He's like, just play the thing. Just play it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not going to sound good. Just play it. Just shut up. Play it. So I see it. It's going around the feet. It's going around, and I know I'm like, it's going to hit that gun, and these speakers are not going to work out. Well, I see the speakers starting to vibrate on the table. And then when it hits the bang, the speaker, one of them popped and blew out and fell on the ground. I'm like, and he's like, that's the one. I'm like, come on, Stan.
Man.
You didn't even hear it. He's like, oh, you already heard it on the big screen. That thing's effing amazing. That's exactly what we wanted. You know, I like good because my ears are bleeding from doing this over and over and over for you. I'm not getting paid enough for losing my hearing. But he went to Comic-Con. I wasn't able to go, unfortunately, and I kind of regret not going because that was the last time I got to see him alive. And he went to Comic-Con. Apparently, they got a standing ovation. He called me and told me that the standing ovation was attributed to a large portion of it was the team, of course, but he wanted to give me a giant high five and say, if it wasn't for your music and that badass sound effect, I don't think it would have had the impact that we got. And you deserve kudos for that. You deserve a good pat on the back for your work. He was very, very appreciative and accommodating to wanting to do what all talented directors do, which is give you your due for free. It costs you nothing to compliment the talent that you're working with. And so I will never forget those moments working with one of the greatest creature creator in film history. I mean, he created Aliens, Terminator, Predator, Edward Scissorhands. You know, I mean, his team created the most iconic characters in history. And ironically, I worked on Jurassic Park and got to stick my head inside the T-Rex when it was at Universal Studios when I was doing props with that. And there are details inside that T-Rex head that you just wouldn't believe. I mean, there's plaque on the teeth and the backside. You never see that in the film. And so it was a full circle moment when I finally got to work with the man that created that with his team. And at his funeral, there was a private moment where Steven got up there and talked about that moment in Terminator, where they'd spent the most money on this T-Rex than any other articulated character in history. Bob Gurr actually was an advisor on that project, even though I don't know if he got credit or not, but he was an advisor to that T-Rex because of the animatronics he had done with Walt. In fact, he was instrumental with Universal's King Kong, which the monkey that was, the giant ape that had the banana breath, he was instrumental in that. So all of my worlds were colliding with Stan. Yeah. And so Steven was up there talking about that moment, and he said when I finally got to, he wasn't really wanting to show the T-Rex to anybody, not to Steven, and he'd spent a fortune on this. It was literally the movie rode on the back of this T-Rex, and so he was telling a story about how Stan had brought him to the studio, and he took him up to the office, and like a little kid, he said, "Hey, I'm going to blindfold you." And he just got flashbacks of when he was a little kid, and his dad was like blindfolding him, and the bike was under the Christmas tree, and he led him down the stairs and into the warehouse where this thing was built. And apparently, unbeknownst to him, unbeknownst to Steven, he put him in the kill zone of the T-Rex, which is it's this little circle, and if you're in it, you're not going to survive. And apparently, the entire crew that had built it had encircled him. And when they took the blindfold off, the entire crew yelled out, "Ah!" As this thing was snapping at his head, inches from his face, and he fell on the ground, terrified, and it just blew him away. And he's like, "Wow, you guys really, that's a way to debut a thing." So when he got to production, and he was in Hawaii filming that iconic scene where the T-Rex looks down into the car and it's about to push it over the edge and all that. That scene wasn't supposed to be rain. There was no rain in that scene. And you could tell because we go from the one where they're laying on the belly and it's clear day to literally an Ed Wood moment where it's like storming in like seconds. Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, tropical storms can come on you like that. If you've lived in any place like in Maryland, you get storms come on you like that real quick. But it wasn't there. So Steven came up to Stan and said, "Hey, Stan, I had this dream last night about doing the scene in the rain. What do you think? Would this thing hold up in the rain?" And he's like, "No, it won't hold up in the rain. It's like a giant sponge. Are you crazy?"
Do you remember Jaws?
It wasn't built for that.
Jaws didn't work well in the
So
water.
he said, "Hey, you know, I got to do this." You know, he's like, "Well, you're not going to hold me liable because my neck's on the line with this thing. I brought here to make sure the thing operates, and you're going to kill it."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, if I sign you off of it, we can get it a little wet, right? We could just we'll try to keep the sprinklers off of it, but you know we'll try to get some good shots. Just imagine, you know, the lightning and the camera moving through the rain. It would be so dimensional." And he just had his mindset on this. Well, 3 days of shooting in the rain, this thing seized up, and Steven's having a meltdown, just like he did on Jaws, where he's having flashbacks of Jaws, where the it wouldn't work, you know, it would never work, and he's like, "Oh my God, Universal's gonna kill me." There went our movie, you know.
Yeah.
It's all built around this scene with that moment, and they didn't have it finished. So Stan, being the kind of guy he was, and this is why Steven told this story at the funeral, because it epitomizes the kind of man that Stan was. Stan just walked up, and he just imagine they were taking these squeegees, all of his boys. That's what he called them, his boys were taking squeegees, trying to beat the water out of this giant T-Rex. Just imagine that for him. Picture that moment, seeing a bunch of grown men beating a T-Rex with squeegees. In that moment, as Steven was melting down, Stan comes up to him and says, "So, how's the family?" And they walked off and talked about their families, and when they came back, it all got working again, and the rest is history. But you know, I must admit, you asked me at the beginning of this, which kind of led into this longer conversation about, you know, how did I get connected with these people? I have no idea. It's just complete dumb luck. I mean, I'm like a leaf in the wind blowing throughout history, just having no idea where it's going to lead me. And I kind of like that. It's kind of fun not knowing exactly what's going to happen next. I mean, I'm trying to get this origin story funded, and I hope that there's a studio that doesn't look at it like Dirty Dancing, that was turned down completely by every studio. I think it was like $6 million or $8 million budget. It was nothing, but it grossed millions of dollars. Was a huge success. When a little VHS company decided to fund it. They were making VHSs back in the day. And so Christmas is controversial to some companies, I've been told. Santa, the white savior complex, is an issue for people. But quite frankly, I just want to tell a really wonderful story that I think could innovate with technology. It could bring a whole new form of communication into the world, just like Walt did with Fantasia sound, you know, when he was doing that, or audio animatronics when he was trying to push the boundaries of storytelling there, or virtual attractions. So, I mean, it's in my nature to want to do what Walt did and take it further, and not just make it about entertainment, but actually try to change the world with the technology that I've got. Because this toy technology really could replace, or at least be a mechanism for homeschooling that could upend the public school system. My toys, if you didn't understand the question that the virtual teacher was teaching you, we could pull from the cloud a different teaching methodology until the child understood the problem. And I don't know of any teacher in Harvard that knows 15, 20, 30 different teaching methodologies for any given question. So I'm on the cusp of making history. I just have no clue if I'll actually get there, because there's so many cynical people. There's so many people that nobody takes risks on anything, especially in the entertainment world. Just look at what Disney's doing. It's all regurgitated live action stuff from the old films that were successful. And then if there's a movie or a show or anything out there connected to a video, even the video game industry, unfortunately, has gotten wrapped up into this, where it has to be an already successful thing somewhere else in another form before they're even willing to take a risk on it. And I think that's a horrible, horrible thing that stifles creativity, and really we'll just see regurgitated crap for many, many years to come. So we need the risk takers. We need the Walt The guys
Yeah,
look at the Walt
You
Disneys
got
of the
Jon
world.
Favreau remaking The Lion King in a video game engine.
yeah, you don't want to get him started on the Disney live action remakes because other than what Cinderella.
Cinderella was like the one I'm slightly.
I
okay
liked
with.
Cinderella. I thought that
wasn't
was
the
good. I'm
earlier
looking
part.
forward to Pinocchio. That might be creepy and interesting
Yeah,
at the same time. So I don't know. I mean, I tend to like wait to criticize something, but I'm not against criticizing Disney's products because Floyd Norman
How
was
else did they get better?
he used to criticize Walt himself. He would do cartoons. That's, by the way, that's the first African American animator in history that Walt himself hired. Everybody likes to think that Walt Disney was an anti-Semite and a sexist
No.
and
Song of the
no.
South was probably one of the best strides he ever made in his life.
Yeah. Yeah, he innovated. He pushed the boundaries. Women, he hired the first women in animation. Now they couldn't have been animators, and it wasn't because Walt didn't want that. It was probably because the male 9 old men probably would have had problems listening to a woman. They probably didn't want a woman in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was, so he would have had riots. He probably would have, at the time, probably would have had a lot of people leave the company because there was that stigma. And but Walt was pushing boundaries all along the way. To say that he was an anti-Semite is insulting to the Sherman brothers, who are Jewish and were his right-hand man for singing. And, everybody that's ever known Walt, that was his friend, that close to him, said that he was the most, he always wanted, if he ever offended anybody, he would very quickly change his behavior and try to make things right with people. And it's a testament to the kind of man that he was, as somebody that you can look up to. And that's why he gained the respect of so many people, because he saw he looked at inside people and saw the talent inside them. He didn't look at their race, color, creed, sex, anything. I mean, Mary Blair, all these amazing people that he worked with, he didn't care where the ideas came from. One of the best stories, and I don't know if this is actually true or not, but this is what I was told by somebody that worked on Pirates when Walt was alive. He said that he was walking through when there wasn't any water. Walt would often walk through the attractions when nobody was around. And I guess he saw like a janitor sweeping up in there. He's like, I think you're from Louisiana. What do you think's missing from the swamp? He's like, well, you don't have any firebugs. We got firebugs out there. You don't have any firebugs. Yeah. Apparently he had his Imagineers working on it the next day. And he got that idea from a janitor sweeping up inside. But I don't know if that's true, but that sounds a lot like what you would expect Walt Disney to do.
I could see him. Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see him, like you said, he would listen to everybody. He would get ideas from wherever he could. It didn't matter to him who they were, where they came from, what they, like you said, male, female, black, white, whatever. It didn't matter to him. But like you said, though, the live action remakes, Cinderella was good. I think a lot of the things have been just rehashes. A lot of them have been rehashes and not done it as well.
And then when they change something, it's to change it to make it quote unquote safer for today.
Yeah. But like you said, if you
let me just talk on that.
If you can't criticize, or if somebody can't criticize it, how do you
let me just talk on that. Let me just touch on that because there's been a lot of political things that have rubbed people the wrong way. Here's the thing. I'm not going to fault Disney for wanting to try to work things out so that nobody gets offended, but somebody will always be offended by something. You can't set it. Yeah. Walt was never one to let critics dictate what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. He did not listen to, he said, let the public decide, and he wouldn't care about what critics would say. Right. But I do see the company now, kind of catering to a minority voice. And I don't know if those are good decisions or bad decisions. All I know is Disney is a business and they're trying to struggle during a pandemic, and there's been a lot of money loss. And I can't blame them for wanting to try to make things right with everybody. But for me personally, I want Disney to get back to the patriotism that they used to celebrate and the science that they used to promote in Tomorrowland, and the family togetherness, because it was really built for families to go and have fun together, not to cater to any specific group. It was a family experience, and I think that they've kind of veered away from that a little bit. They're trying to compete with Universal Studios that kind of ate their lunch on Harry Potter. A lot of the Imagineers left and were moonlighting over there, and I think they just stayed. But now there's a lot of kind of park hopping with talent from I mean, the Garner Holt companies worked at Knott's Berry Farm. They're the same ones that do the animatronics for Disney. So I think that they're trying to compete, trying to make it more adult. That's why DCA was built. But I think they're going away from the thing that made Disney so successful, which is telling really great family stories that appealed to everybody, young and old, that had magic in them. So I want Disney to kind of think about those things and get back to that. I have no influence whatsoever. And, you know, I don't know where Disney's going to go. I love the company like it's my family. I love the cast members. They work so hard for the money that they get paid. They work very hard.
Yeah.
You know, they deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. They're just trying to do their best to give you a good day. And people that knock on Disneyland being overpriced, which is a constant topic as they continually raise prices trying to survive, they have to remember that you can see a full Broadway performance, many, many live performers, and you get all of the attractions and access to all kinds of things that you can't get anywhere else in the world in that day event. And I think for your money, it's still a great value, even though it's kind of, you know, more for the middle class, upper middle class now, as it's getting more expensive, but still.
I'd rather go to Disney for like a week than see something like Hamilton for maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's legit. I mean, you could go to a play, or you can go see something that could cost you $100+ for a 2 or 3 hour play, where you're paying little over $100 for an entire day. And like you said, you have a whole range of things you can do there. So
yeah, the value is great. I'm constantly arguing with people saying it's overpriced, it's not worth it. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess if you've been there like a million times and you've seen the shows a million times, you've probably gone too many times. You know, but a person that's never been there before, if you get a tour guide that can take you through all the best parts of what make the park great, there's nothing like it, and there's no park like it. You can't. I mean, let's be honest. Universal Studios is a predominantly motion-based ride, and they don't have a lot of space, so they've got to do motion-based. They'll make you sick. They just do, because the inner ear doesn't line up with what you're seeing. I know, because I built location-based motion simulators, and I know that problem exists.
Yes.
But they also just shoot water in your face on every attraction as a cheap, low-brow way of getting your attention and getting a rise out of you. And, you know, Walt Disney would have never used a cheap carnival gag like that to entertain you, especially a person that has to wear glasses and to look around when I'm walking. The last thing I want is, things spitting at me on every attraction. So as much as I like the Harry Potter land in terms of its visual acuity, its visual details, Disneyland still just blows it out of the water in every respect. So, I think there's still room to grow. In Galaxy's Edge, I don't think competes very well with Harry Potter, but I still think that the Rise of the Resistance is by far the most sophisticated attraction on Earth. There's nothing like it. You really feel like you're in the movie. Yeah. And I remember writing that with my best friend, and I went with she was my fiance at the time, now my wife, and we wrote it three of us together. And I got off the attraction and I immediately looked at my best friend and I hugged him and we started crying. And I totally forgot about my fiance in the moment, thinking we were just there, Vader. We were on a Star Destroyer. We were in that world. We really felt like we had a moment. And that's what you get from Disney. That's what you get at Disney, and you get nowhere else in even the Harry Potter attraction, the castle attraction, which is their best. Yeah. I still think falls short of what Disney has achieved with Rise of the Resistance, So I look forward to seeing where attractions will go and where that world will be. I still think that it will be mostly, put on glasses and the attractions come to you.
How about we lock you in a hotel for 2 days?
Oh,
it's a high-priced, high-expensive hotel. I'd love for it to be more mainstream so that anybody could experience that, but it looks like it's more for the rich and famous, that Star Wars hotel experience. And I think a lot of people are disappointed by the price. But, again, these are all luxuries, not guarantees. And we need to remember that it's a vacation. You save up for it and then you go, and you either think it's worth it or not. And, you know, with every park that Disney has expanded to, they've had some growing pains, and they're the first to admit that they've fallen short. And that's the benefit of Imagineering, is that they're constantly trying to rethink and improve, and they're trying to go for a goal to blow you away every time.
Yeah.
There's the standard that Walt set, you know.
I'll be curious, you know, when the first people start going to that in, what is it, March, April, somewhere in that time frame, to see what those.
Well, we've been talking for 2 hours and just
I know,
a little over 2 hours now.
I'm going to circle this. I'm going to ask one last question for you here.
Sure.
Because, yeah, we've been going quite a while. Sort of bring it back to where we started with Santa. Since we started there. Your favorite Santa, other than your own, you know, the #Bless movie. Your favorite depiction of Santa in a movie?
Easy. Miracle on 34th Street.
Which one? The original or the remake?
The original.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the sequel. I like the remake, but the first one, it had a depiction of a loving man. He wasn't a goofball. You know, I think most of the Santas that I've seen until Christmas Chronicles, Santa, like Tim Allen's version, he was kind of goofy and ridiculous. Like, you couldn't take him seriously. It was a comedy. Like, Santa's a big buffoon. Like,
I kind of liked Ed Asner in Elf.
Ed Asner in Elf was pretty funny too, but yeah,
but not in a buffoon way.
No.
He was
but he wasn't. Ed Asner seemed like the crotchety kid from House, you know, the grandpa from Up.
But
you know,
Kurt Russell,
like, I don't want a
Kurt Russell.
crotchety, you know, I don't want a agitated Santa. I want some, you know, in my version of the Elf King, as he's a young man, he's a rich, wealthy, spoiled kid who's a trickster, a prankster, because he's part elf, and he's a parkour expert, and he has a steampunk dog sled pulled by a wolf that he rescued.
How much of this
animals
stuff is made up? So there's no spoilers.
Well, you know, even if I told you much of the supposed spoilers, nothing will prepare you for the season finale. It's really, truly, it answers every question that a kid could ever have.
Yeah.
Explains why he needs cookies, explains why he goes through chimneys, explains why he uses reindeer specifically. There's a really good reason behind it. I wanted to create a show that would explain things logically, like you could really believe it, even though it's fantasy based. Yeah. So I had to do deep dives on Santa's history, the history of elves. It's funny because people don't realize the history of elves came from these 2 foot tall gnomes, which were, you know, in Ireland, Scotland, the little people, you know, in Europe was really popular. Yeah. 30% of the community believes that the little people are real. Fairies are real today. So elves were actually gnomes. They were like Dobby, free elves in Harry Potter, and they would determine whether or not that you were nice or naughty, and they would make lists. They would help you. Like there's stories about how the shoemaker needed to get some shoes done, and he was overwhelmed, so he fell asleep, and the elves came along and made the shoes.
Then they were baking cookies in a tree.
Yeah, and if you go against these gnomes and you insult them, well, they'll undo all of their work as punishment to you. So the whole naughty nice list came from gnomes and these 2 foot tall, very kind of tough little characters that were mostly mischievous. So I worked in a lot of the lore, and you know, there's how did we get from Saint Nicholas, who was a real man born in Myra, which is Turkey, modern day Turkey, in a desert town, a port city, which you know, doesn't have snow, doesn't have reindeer. You know, how did we go from that guy to the secularized Santa we all know and love? Well, I explain all those things. I explain how this real man became a legend and became a myth. You know, the stories, and the Krampus, which is this demon-like creature that is celebrated in Germany.
What about Belschnickel?
Oh, Belschnickel.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many iterations of Santa Claus. There's also the Christmas Witch, which is celebrated in, I think, February or January in Italy every year. And she sweeps good housekeepers' homes, and because she's flying on a broom, you know, and she leaves gold coins in the socks and coal for the kids that are bad. Sound familiar? It sounds like Santa.
I've heard
So
some
there's a lot of so this
man.
man, Saint Nicholas, who was a real man, was so inspirational to people around the world that there is a Saint Nicholas church in every single country on earth, which most people don't realize. And let's be honest, he's second to Jesus Christ in terms of popularity. You can go anywhere in the world and anybody knows who Saint Nicholas is, Santa Claus. And so I thought, wow, we've never really done an origin story that explains how we got here. You know, when I was a kid, I always wondered, you know, like, what does he do with all those cookies? Why does he need all those cookies?
Yeah,
you know?
What's the deal with that? Yeah. And that's
Well, I have a good answer for that.
Elf King?
Just have to get the show made, and I'll explain it.
That's all. That's in the Elf King.
That is in the Elf King. I explain all of this stuff.
I feel like
so. And then when we come out in season 2 with the toys, you know, I'll be defying logic. I'll have toys that are magic, that are interacting with the real Santa Claus who actually made the toys. So I think there's something fun about that.
What he's asking a question here. What?
I feel like there was something that did a slight origin story of Santa, just not quite on the level you're doing.
Not this detail. Not this.
Klaus was an animated movie that came out 2 years ago. There was also a Boy Named Christmas, which came out, which I hate to say was kind of not what I expected. I mean, his name's Christmas, and there's not one single mention of why his name is that. You know, literally since Christ has something to do with it, I think. Yeah. Yeah, he has magical abilities, but they don't explain why he has magical abilities in that show. And I think there was some kind of political stuff that was put into it that sounded like they were promoting a political agenda. I don't want to do anything like that. I want to do a show that brings everybody together. That's why I made this mythical, fantastic city in a port town, so that we can have a lot of culture, a lot of different people, different colors. It's not going to be an all-white cast by any sense of the word. We want to have a very diverse story that brings everybody together, that everybody will love. Yeah. And, you know, so I'm pitching it. I'm selling it. If there's anybody who's listening that has connections and wants to do it, let's do it. Yeah. I got the best team on earth. I've got some A-list celebrity guys that I can't mention on camera, but I've got some people that everybody would recognize that want to come on and star in it. I've got a major Disney composer that is already committed to composing the soundtrack for me.
Oh, nice.
And we have a massive art company that wants to sponsor the artwork that I would produce that we would sell with the project. And we want to do an opening that's like a Christmas card, or the paintings that I paint, they open up like a Christmas card. Yeah. And we'll offer them as collectibles.
Sounds like you're on the right track on this one.
Yeah. We'll see.
Sure. I mean, your whole life sounds like it's been on track, but
you know, it's been kind of a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I really have no idea what's going to happen next.
My wife is saying A Boy Called Christmas is based on a book. The author is an atheist, believe it or not. So that's interesting.
Yeah, but the movie ultimately did its own things in there. I mean, the thing about that show that didn't make any sense is he's got this aunt that's taking care of the boy while his father goes off, and she's really abusive to him. And yet he comes back and gives her chocolate, you know, like that makes everything all right with all the abuse. Sure.
Did he have anything in the chocolate, or was it just regular chocolate?
You know, again, it made no sense to me. I think it was really visually beautiful. I think they had, it was a nice modern Christmas story to watch, but it's not something where it changes people's lives. And with my show, I want to change people's lives. I want to get to kind of like what Highway to Heaven did, where I'm talking about real human problems. People don't understand this, but Santa Claus wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a plague. And here we are dealing with a pandemic right now. This story is very relevant. Nicholas's own parents died of the plague, leaving him a great wealth, which led him to, because he was a man of the cloth, to give away his great wealth and become the gift giver that we celebrate. So again, if it wasn't for a plague, we wouldn't have Santa Claus, and people don't understand that. They don't know that history. And so I want to tell that story. And I think there's a lot of relevance to what we're dealing with right now with isolation and family members dying from this plague and poverty, the economy going bad, shortages, food shortages. You know, we get this, there's this story about the Christmas pickle, and they hide pickles on trees. Well, if you've ever heard that expression, got you out of a pickle, well, that comes from St. Nicholas. During the plague, when there were meat shortages, St. Nicholas came into a butcher shop and saw that there was meat available. And when there was no meat available, he says, "Where did you get the meat?" And he didn't believe the guy's answer, so he went in the back and saw the butcher's children that had been butchered and put into a pickle brine in barrels. And apparently, according to legend, St. Nicholas brought them back to life and got them out of a pickle.
Wow.
So, you know, there's a lot of darkness surrounding St. Nicholas. I mean, he supposedly punched a man and broke his nose for going against some ideas that he had. He had punched him and broke his nose. I don't want to have any violence in the show. In fact, he's a parkour expert, so when he gets into bullies that are trying, he just kind of matrix his way out of a fight. You know, he's very quick. So
which level
it'll be fun
beyond?
to kind of make him kind of a speedster type of a guy, you know, kind of an action hero. So I have a really different take on Santa than I think we'll bring it into the modern age.
I agree as far as the typical Santa, like you said, which basically came from Coke, you know, came from the Coca-Cola thing.
Well, actually, to go back, it was the poem "A Night Before Christmas" which solidified it. In fact, kids memorized that poem. They loved it so much. It was the only poem that they actually memorized on their own because they loved it so much. And that led to the mall Santas and all that stuff with Macy's and all. You know, that's what. And then in the 30s and 40s, that's when Coke got a hold of it and redesigned it and made him obese. And that's not even a joke. I mean, that's an obese Santa right there compared to what he used to look like, which was more thin like me. And when you've got 650,000 people dying from heart disease every year. We've got an obesity epidemic, 68 million children that are dealing with obesity under the age of 5, you know, that are dealing with being overweight or obese. 68 million children in the world. I just wanted to give a Santa that was going to give children a better example on how to live, and that it's not all about the cookies and candies and candy canes. And especially when you've got the COVID going around, and the number one underlying health condition is 78% of the people going to the hospital are either overweight or obese, and you've got people dying from that. I had 2 people I know personally that were obese, 200 pounds overweight. They died quickly from COVID, where everybody else around them that got COVID survived without any problems. So I just thought, if we're going to have a Santa and you're going to put him under glass and not be able to touch kids anymore at the mall, let's at least do something right with this character that is an icon that children look up to, Right. So I want to do something that gives them a hero. And think about it. This is a guy that pulls a train of, reindeer through the sky, delivers all these toys in one night. This guy's formidable. He's not a weakling. He's a tough guy. He's very, very supernaturally strong. Right. And so the obese Coca-Cola Santa just doesn't resonate with me. I consider the product bad for society, and avoid it at all costs. It's candy water, kids. It's candy water.
Candy water. Well, you were going to say
you'll do better if you don't drink that stuff.
You can meet them.
What's that?
Some Santas in our area.
Some of the mall Santas, fortunately, are able to be approached in our area, so that's a good thing, I guess.
That is a good thing. It was just heartbreaking seeing all the Santas in glass, in these domes. I did last year. I did a virtual Santa sitting, so people could send me their photographs of them sitting on a chair, and I would Photoshop them in, and they actually got a better experience that way because they didn't have to go anywhere. They just dress up their kids in their own private homes. They'd send me the pictures and then get the result, and I put them in a virtual workshop that looked real with me sitting with the kids. And I was going to do it this year. I just got overwhelmed. But that was a cool little fun thing that I did. And now with the TikToks, I'm going to be doing it year round, even though Christmas is going to be over here this week. The TikToks will continue. So what does Santa do after Christmas? I've got ideas. People want to just, when I was doing the TikTok thing around Halloween, people got really upset with me, saying it's not your time. Back in the box, Santa. And I'm like, wait a second, and I have little kids get on there and saying, I don't believe in you, Santa. My parents told me. I said, well, I never asked anybody to believe in me. I'm not God. Believe in selflessness. That's what I always stood for. And certainly we could all agree on that. Yes. And so I started winning hearts and minds by trying to get kids back into the purpose of what I think Santa stands for, not necessarily the holiday, which of course has all kinds of religious connotations, pagan and Christian. Okay. The Christmas tree being a pagan origin. And I even explained some of those traditions in terms of when Santa goes into the dark elf woods, Saint Nicholas, when Nicholas goes into the dark elf woods, he comes upon a Christmas tree, a evergreen, which has apples hanging from them, which was a pagan tradition. They would hang apples on trees in the forest, living trees, because the pine tree, the evergreen, was evergreen. It was the one that survived the winter and never went dead. So it was a beacon of hope to survive the winter. And so they would hang apples on them for travelers going through the forest so that they would have something to nourish themselves as a token of an offering to survive the harsh winter. Yeah. So I thought that would be and now our ornaments are modern day versions of those apples, so it's all rooted, it's all connected. The Christians didn't hate the pagans and try to overwrite their holiday. They really just kind of adopted it and made it and did it themselves. There's a lot of confusion about that. And I probably get a lot of haters that are saying, no, it was pagans and the Christians stole it. Well, that's actually not true. That's not true at all. If they actually looked at the history, it was more of a well, we can't beat them, so we might as well join them type thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, they were trying to, they were trying to teach Christianity, and rather than just overriding everything they had, they, tried to take in some of their traditions,
much like Catholicism and the saints.
Well, yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, the Catholics and the Spaniards and all that stuff, when they came in, they wiped out the Mayan history and the Aztecs and all. Yeah, that's not good. That's not what I'm talking about here. But that did happen, and I don't want to make the show overtly religious. It's going to be about the fun of this man going from a rich, spoiled kid that had everything to a gift giver who doesn't care about gold and money, and how he comes into his abilities. So I don't really want to get into the dogma. In fact, we really want to kind of separate the monastery that he goes to. And becomes a priest like monk. We're never really going to exactly say what religion that is. It's just kind of going to be this offshoot, because the person running it is a heretic who's actually running the monastery. There's a good priest
monastery.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that?
It's the Dr. Strange monastery.
It's we're not going to be descriptive about it. We're going to challenge religion, but we're also going to remind people that there's value there to religion as well. So we don't want to make enemies with anybody. We really want it to be something that everybody I mean, think about it. How does a man who's a saint, who was a priest, have a wife? I mean, if you're Catholic, you can't have a wife if you're a priest. So what's Mrs. Claus? So I have to explain that. I have to explain how did he get there.
Religious
exemption. So it's going to be an interesting story.
And then if it's promoting a good message and selflessness in particular, and not basically giving of yourself rather than expecting everybody.
I don't want Santa to be the white savior so much as he just nudges people in the right direction that gives them the ability to make the decisions on their own. Where he's just nudging people, which is what we're all supposed to be doing, right? Nudging people towards goodness, trying to be good examples to people. I think I want the show to be about him being a good example. If somebody you can look up to, a hero, a really true hero. I mean, just about every hero that we've got has been dismantled. We've got athletes that have done bad things, and They throw away their history, and even our icons, Superman, just going against everything that character was based on, just to appease the modern whatever flavor of the month trend. So I just want it to be something that everyone of all persuasions will respect and love and appreciate. That's what Christmas is really about. The whole holiday is about coming together and selflessness. And I have friends that are of all persuasions, atheists included, and I've pitched this in front of all of them. And there's something for everybody.
Good.
So,
I can't wait to.
Who knows? Maybe down the road, after I've gotten the show up and running, and if it's a huge success, we'll look back at this, and it'll be for prosperity.
That's right. That's right. We could say, look, we remember way back when, when this happened.
Well, we're coming close to my battery about to die.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap this up with.
Well, Santa, just use your magic.
Yeah, just do a little magic.
Just plug in.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joel, it's been great having you on tonight, and I agree with you about the Santa, the image of Santa.
We could do better.
Until Kurt Russell, it was pretty much all the big plump guy.
But keep in mind, even with Kurt Russell, I'm thinking that's not Santa, that's Snake Plissken.
What?
Another movie.
It's nice to have an unknown guy that nobody's seen before that could step into that and do things different without any preconceived ideas. So I'm hoping that they'll let me be my own Rocky, Stallone, and let me do my own thing.
Well, and I enjoyed, that interpretation of Santa not being the fat guy. And I enjoyed watching your trailers with you. And I think you look, to me, it looks like even in just those 1 or 2 minute trailers I've seen, from the hashtag Bless movie, you look like you can steal the show.
I've had people say that. They're like, why weren't you in it more? They should have just made a movie about Santa. Well, it turns out that we will be doing sequels, other movies with that producer, and Santa's in them a lot more.
Good.
Like half of the movie is with Santa. So we'll just see how we have to sell the first one. But even if the Elf King doesn't happen, then this character will still be developed through future productions. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think you definitely encompass the spirit of Santa. How's that? I think you do a good job. So
I get that a lot from people that have known me since the high school days. They would say, if there was ever a Santa, I love children. I just do. I really do. I want the best for people. My just to wrap up on Friendlians, the reason why I created Friendlians is because I wanted to teach children in such a way that we would raise a generation of children that would learn how to work together, solving problems that have plagued humanity forever. Poverty and our power problems, and working together peacefully despite our differences, and I think that's a message that I think everybody can connect with, no matter where you come from. We all live on this big blue ball, and I'd like to believe, just like Walt, that when we work together, we can achieve anything.
Right.
And what are we doing here on Earth if not to leave it better than the way we found it? And I never wanted to die and have all these regrets thinking that I had a wasted life. I always had a purpose in my mind of wanting to change the world. I was one of those big thinkers that always wants to change the world. Yeah. And it seems insurmountable, especially with people becoming so cynical about everything and being so fragile with criticism. And I think, no, criticize more, criticize the heck out of it. We're going to, if we all agree, we're going to run off a cliff together.
How do you learn if you don't have
people? Well, if we're all in agreement and we're all on the same page with everything, then we'll all walk off a cliff together, So I think we need to have some disagreements.
Yeah.
And we just need to be nice about it, and work together.
Well, thank you for being on with us tonight. I really appreciate it. You've been a great guest. And we've gone for about 2.5 hours, which is not our normal show, but we're glad you made it. We're glad you stuck it out with us. Wait, we still got to sing our song. So he's trying to leave already. No, we'll let you go. We usually do. We close our show with a Mickey Mouse song.
Well, you guys can close the show with Santa Lives in You, which is available on Spotify and iTunes. And if you go to my page on YouTube, there's actually a karaoke version of it that I made for people. But Santa Lives in You. Please download it, listen to it, share it during the Christmas season. I got to be instrumental in coming up with the message that I wanted to tell, and it's a message that we desperately need right now. Everybody will love this song and love the message that is spoken in it, and I think it's it'll stand the test of time as a standard. I really do.
Good. Well, I'm gonna all the little scrolls I had going down at the bottom of the screen here. I'll put them in the post for the show on Facebook and on YouTube. So if anyone wants to click the link, they'll be there. But again, great having you. I hope you and your family have a very Merry Christmas. And again, just
Merry Christmas to one and all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All
Take
right.
care. We will see you.
All right. Take care.
Good night. Man, that guy's done everything.
Mm-hmm.
What hasn't he done? Does that inspire you at all? I mean,
Does that inspire me, or does that make me feel like I'll never achieve that much?
no, you got to look at it from the positive side. Okay. You still got you got your whole life ahead of you. Look at all the different things he's done. Yeah.
Yeah, he also lived out in California.
Doesn't matter. Everything's remote now.
Yeah, that means you have to go to the websites that are shady enough to have the people on them that you want to connect with.
No, just look at the positive side.
Right.
You look at the positive side.
Right.
That's how you got to do it. Well,
Yeah.
Are you ready? You gonna sing it out?
I was ready already.
I know you were ready already. It's been a long night. We still got to watch Spider-Man.
I am not watching a
We're
Spider-Man
trying to
tonight.
catch up on the last couple Spider-Man movies.
Fine, but I already watched the Spider-Man. I'll be half paying attention.
Okay, that's fine. So that we can go to the latest Spider-Man movie that just came out last Thursday and broke all kind of records, box office and everything this weekend. So anyway,
Nobody cares. Nobody's watching anymore.
Before we leave, I know because we've been going on so long. Before we leave, though, again, we just want to wish everyone out there a very Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Are we having a show next week?
Probably, but I'm not sure. We'll play it by ear. We might be back next Monday. I'm not quite sure. But again, thank you. Have a very Merry Christmas, and let's sing it on out. And a one, and a two.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. M-I-C, see you real soon. K-Y, why? Because we like ya. M-O-U-S-E. A little bit off key. Good night, everybody. Again, Merry Christmas. And thanks for being with us. Take care.